There is a mysterious little peak, Mount Tai, and the full moon is shining brightly. A boy is wearing a cap, completely drenched in sweat, and is looking tired. He is holding a big stick in his hands for the support, and he is walking lonely between the mountains. After walking for so long, he reaches his destination and there is a big monument. Then he places a shiny token on it. After that, he lies on the ground because of tiredness. Then he, being drenched in sweat, looks at the sky and says to himself, Lien Song, in the end, I managed to keep only half of my promise with you. A blue butterfly is flying in the air and he's looking at that. After capturing the image of butterfly in his eyes, he gets lost in his memories. He remembers he was the emperor. Then an old man appears. Zhu Yuanzhang. Then he asks his grandson, Child, what do you think about power? His grandson, Zhu Yunwen, smiles and asks innocently, Aren't they flowers, grandfather? Then the old grandfather asks, Flowers, you say? Why do you think so? The child thinks for a while and then replies, Well, from the noble to the lowly, everyone talks about it and gathers around the capital for it. And while saying this, the boy is looking at the blue butterfly which is sitting on a big flower nearby. Then the boy asks, If power isn't flowers, what else could it be? The grandfather is amazed at his answer and then lifts the child in the air because of happiness and says, As expected of my Yunwan. How clever. Then suddenly he gets serious and says to his grandson, However, Yunwan, remember this. Although it's flashy and colorful, it can wither as if it never existed. My grandfather, who had no suitable heir, handed down the throne to me, and someone whose existence was no different from Mount Tai to me, even he couldn't avoid his impending fate. No, it was me who couldn't avoid my impending fate. After the death of his grandfather, Yunwen became the next emperor, but the Prince of Yen attacks him along with his soldiers and he's extremely shocked to see the miserable condition of his home. The boy is standing alone. Meanwhile, the Prince of Yen is standing before him with his soldiers. The Prince of Yen is a giant and horrible man. Then he says to the Yunwen arrogantly, Listen, Zhu Yunwen. No matter what the last emperor said, how can the fate of an empire be entrusted to mere brat like you? If you truly care about this country and the people, instead of sitting on the throne, find a place suitable for trash like you. Yunwen is shocked at the rude behavior of his uncle and asks him, Uncle, what are you talking about? His wicked uncle laughs like an evil and while taking out his sword, says to him, What else? Everything has an order. Lift your heavy ass out of my palace. Then after saying this, his uncle along with his soldiers, attacks him. It was a coup caused by a blood relative. As a result, a lot of people died. After killing his people, the subordinates of his uncle were heading towards Yunwen to kill him when the master Lien Song comes from behind, holds him from his shoulder and says to him, Your Majesty, please come this way. The boy looks at him and asks, Lien Song? Then the master holds Yunwen's hand and escapes from there. Meanwhile, the troops of the prince are chasing them and saying, Capture Zhu Yunwen and kill him. The people of the Yunwen are fighting with the prince's soldiers, saying, Protect his majesty. Master Lien Song sent me out of the palace through a secret path. Yunwen is sitting on a horse and the master is standing nearby. Then the master asks him, Have you memorized it? The top of the mysterious little peak in Mount Tai. Please find a small stone monument and hang the emperor token on it. The two men who served His Majesty Hongwu Emperor will definitely assist you. The boy replies to him while crying, Lien Song, how can I keep living this miserable life? The old man gets angry at this and replies to him rudely, Come to your senses, Zhu Yunwen. Survive. That's the only way to fulfill the royal decree, and honor His Majesty Hongwu Emperor. That's why, please promise me that you will survive, Your Majesty. While saying this all, the old master is also crying. Then Yunwen says to his master while crying that, I understand, Lien Song. Then the master wishes him, saying, May luck be with you, Your Majesty. And then the boy leaves that palace and heads towards the Mount Tai. Yunwen is lying on the ground in a miserable condition, thinking about that incident which took place few days ago and is looking towards the sky, wondering that, so power is this fleeting. If I can be born again, rather than a flower that can wither at any given moment, I want to be born as a free butterfly. Then he closes his eyes because of the pain and says to himself, Lien Song, it looks like this is as far as I can go. He gets fainted and is lying there when two men comes and looks at him. Then one of them holds a strand of his hair in his hand and asks his other fellow, What's this, a beggar? Do they grow their hair out these days? The other man who is standing near him looks at the token and is quite stunned to see that and says, Huan no. This is the emperor's token. Both of them takes the boy to the nearby cave and he is lying on a mat. Meanwhile those two old men are sitting over their knees, near him. The boy opens his eyes slowly and when they see that he's awake, they greet him, saying obediently, Your Majesty. We disloyal vassals greet His Majesty. The boy gets up and then touches his right shoulder and asks himself, Am I still alive? Then he looks at those two men and asks them, You are? Both of them are shocked and replies immediately that, We are His Majesty Emperor Hongwu's secret guards. Then they introduce themselves, one of them tells his name, Huan no, while the other says, And, Hui no, Your Majesty. Then the boy asks them, Is that so? Did you two save me? Then Huan no replies to him, Yes, Your Majesty. The token you have is the Emperor's token and it's the token of absolute monarch that only the true lineage of the imperial family can bear. The imperial family is full of rebels. In preparation for rebellion, His Majesty Hongwu Emperor told us about the Emperor's token and no matter how long it takes, the great Ming Empire will surely belong to you again, Your Majesty. The boy is listening to them quietly with his head down and then after thinking for a while, he says to them carelessly that, No, now I don't need it anymore. Both of them are stunned after hearing this and asks, Pardon? Then he replies, This land belongs to the people, not me. Now that my role is over, I should forget everything and learn to adapt to the life of a commoner. Huan no is worried for him and says, Your Majesty. But he interrupts him and says, It's not like I don't know how loyal are you but I'm fed up with the words, Your Majesty. For my sake, just call me young master instead. Hui no is looking at him and wondering, I didn't expect His Majesty to give up like this. It feels like my heart is being torn apart. Then Yunwen looks up in the air and continues, saying, Young master, I like the sound of that. It makes me comfortable too. Now that things have turned out like this, I want to change not just my name but everything else. Huan no comes near him and looks into his eyes, saying, Young master. He is confused to see him this close and replies, What's wrong? Then he asks him, Do you really want to forget all the past? Yunwen gets a little far from him and says, I was just saying that it would be great if I could do that. It's just my dream, you know. Then Huan no replies to him, You can actually do that. Yunwen asks, What? When Hui no comes to know that what he's thinking, he gets angry and says to him, Huan no, are you thinking of, you can't? Huan no looks at him with anger and replies to him, You stay put. Isn't that what His Majesty wants? After listening to them, Yunwen says to him, Look, Huan no. If it's truly possible, can you help me with that? Instead of a flower that gets stuck on the ground, I want to become like a butterfly that flies freely across the sky. Can you make me a free being like that? Then the old man asks with excitement that, Please tell me, Your Majesty. What kind of person do you want? Hearing this, Yunwen asks surprisingly, Person? You can make me who I want to be? Then he tells him, as long as he existed in history, it's completely possible. Though he can't be alive. The boy asks, even Emperor Qin Shi Huang or Kublai Khan is possible? And he replies, Of course. Then he again asks, How about a woman? Yang Gufei or Shishir? Then Huan no tells him, It will be a little complicated, but yes it's definitely possible. Then the boy once again asks, Really? Then what about a person of Jianghu? The old man looks at him with surprise and asks, Jianghu, are you talking about a person of Murim? It's possible but who do you want to become? Then he tells him that, I don't know much about the history of Jianghu. However, since you two came from Jianghu, you should know it well. A person who can move freely anywhere. I want to be like that. Hui no is looking at the Majesty and thinking, His Majesty must not know what he's talking about. Since the one who has the most freedom in Jianghu, is also the strongest person. Then Huan no holds his long mustache and says to him, I can't tell exactly since the strongest person in each era varies but if I have to pick one, Heavenly Demon. Hui no says to him, Huan no. How can you say that to His Majesty? Yunwen holds his chin and thinks then says, Heavenly Demon? That's a good name. Then he points his thumb towards himself and says, Good, then make me that person. On the top of the mysterious little peak in Mount Tai, a lot of candles are placed on the ground and Huan no is standing between them while holding a weird kind of bell in his one hand and the stick in the other and all the candles are burning. While holding the bell in his hand and sitting between the candles cross-legged, Huan No is meditating and wondering that, I remember it clearly as if it were yesterday. The fundamentals of soul summoning and spirit binding and 2 demon soul pills that were kept in the secret storage of the fire-worshipping cult. The day when those things stole them. Had I not been favored by His Majesty the Celestial Emperor early on, I wouldn't have even existed in this world. Then after meditating for a while, some kind of noise starts coming out of that bell. Huan No opens his eyes immediately and asks Huino, who is coming towards him from behind while holding a napkin and is wiping his hands with it, that, Huino, is the vessel ready? Huino tells him that, I've removed its epithelia and shaved off its skeleton. I've inserted the ivory under its nose cartilage and replanted the removed epithelia back. I've injected a dozen types of elixirs and poisonous sap, melted his bones and rubbed its contour again. Since I'm old now, I have to keep restoring myself. Very well, there is not a single mistake in the surgical procedure. Then Huino removes the cloth from the Yunwan's face, who's lying on the mat, and his face has been completely changed and converted into the heavenly demon's face by surgery. Then looking at his face, Huino says to his fellow, His Majesty has faced a long delay in his total body modification. The vessel preparation is complete. Huan No also glances at the Majesty's face and says, Great job. The late Celestial Emperor would be delighted too. Then Huan No looks up in the air and says, Let me ask you now. Are you ready to work your new life? After hearing this, the soul of the heavenly demon appears there and is quite angry because they disturbed him. Then the heavenly demon says to Huan No that, How dare you wake me up from my slumber? Why are you bothering me? While thinking everything is important from this point on, Huan No points his hand towards Your Majesty's body, who is lying behind, and says to the heavenly demon that, I'd like to give you a new life. Hearing this, the heavenly demon laughs loudly and says, A new life? How interesting. Then the heavenly demon refuses his offer and says, No. At the rejection of the proposal, Huan No is looking towards him with confusion and then asks him, Why? Do you not want it? The heavenly demon replies, saying, I do not want to become a human. Have you ever lived the life that's unrivaled? Are you telling me to experience boredom and loneliness again? Give it up. Hell would be much more interesting. Then the heavenly demon gets angry and warns him, saying, Do not call me ever again. If you call me for this reason again, I shall kill everyone. The heavenly demon was about to leave when the old Huan No stops him and says, Wait. Then Huan No starts pondering that, I must think of a secret plan. If the heavenly demon returned now, this would be all for nothing. I need something. Words that can interest the unrivaled of demonic cult. Huan No is completely drenched in sweat, and then he makes up his mind and says to him, Heavenly demon, you're an idiot. Huino is also wondering that what his fellow is doing and is risking his life. When the heavenly demon hears the word idiot for him, he gets infuriated and says to Huan No, What did you just say? You are asking for your death. Do you want me to end your life right here and then? Huan No replies to him that, if you are really the heavenly demon, you are an idiot. To think you'd be this ignorant about the world. Meanwhile, in his head, he's thinking that, I am dead if I chicken out. Then the heavenly demon says to him, How dare you, you rat bastard, are you done talking? Then suddenly, Huan No says, Zhang Sanfeng. Hearing this word for the first time, the heavenly demon asks, What Sanfeng? Huan No tells him that an extraordinary ascetic called Zhang Sanfeng has appeared in this generation. He's even praised to be more excellent than Dharma. Then the heavenly demon replies to him that, Dharma? I have never heard of that little kid's name. This time, Huan No replies with quite seriousness, That's what I'm talking about, being ignorant about the world. People from this day and age say that no matter how strong the heavenly demon is, he won't even be worth a second to Sage Sanfeng. The heavenly demon feels offended and gets angry at this, saying, What? Not even worth a second? What kind of darn bastard would say that nonsense? Huan No is trying his best to convince the heavenly demon for coming in this world again in the Yunwan's body, and then again says to him, Heavenly demon, do you know about the word development? You may be the best in your time, but the people of Miram have improved their martial arts step by step. The current generation has faced development in martial arts that can't be compared to your generation. Did you say you were unrivaled? And you were bored because of that? Then, become it once again. Then saying this, Huan No loudly says, The unrivaled, then and now. To motivate him. The heavenly demon is listening to him quietly, and then after thinking for a while, the heavenly demon says, the unrivaled, then and now. The strongest beyond generations. Then he asks Huan No that, how old is that little kid, and he replies, he's 20. Then heavenly demon smiles and says, then, he'll live 100 more years at least. Very well, I shall get into him. If the people of this generation are really strong, I shall hone my skills and prove that I am the best in this generation too. The unrivaled master, then and now. The enteral unrivaled supreme. I shall show them why I am the heavenly demon. Then the heavenly demon looks into the Huan No's eyes and says, I shall treat you to a meal when that happens, and the old Huan No replies hesitatingly, thank you. Now then, go and lie down there. I shall begin. And the heavenly demon, after saying, very well, goes into the Yunwan's body. The most delicate part of the procedure begins, and then Huan No says to his other old fellow that, Hui No, bring the demon soul pill, and I'll leave the rest to you. Then Hui No brings the pill and put it into the Majesty's mouth and then pinches at the different parts of his body with the pin. Suddenly, the young master opens his eyes and gets up, and Hui No is shocked to see that and calls him, Master. It seems that the young master is not in his senses and is holding his head because of the pain and is seen to be in miserable condition. Then looking at him, Huan No asks, Master, what's the matter? While holding his hair with his hands, the master replies to him, I can hear voices. My head hurts as if it's going to break. What is this noise, Huan No? Then Huan No holds his arm and checks his pulse and then hits slowly with his 2 fingers on his forehead. Hui No, who's standing behind and is observing all this, asks, Huan No, what is going on here? Huan No says, how could this? The young master could hear differently voices in his head and then says to the heavenly demon who's in his body that, be quiet, will you? Then looking at him, Hui No asks, Master. But instead of the master, Huan No replies to him that, he's not saying it to you, Hui No. Right now, the master is talking with the heavenly demon. It seems like the great fundamental has failed. Hui No is worried about the master and then says to his old fellow that, can't you tell? Stop speaking the obvious and do something about it. Huan No replies to him that, the heavenly demon failed to take complete control of the master. Clash of consciousnesses is something that shouldn't have happened. If this condition continues, master's mind is going to break down. Hui No is angry at the foolishness of his friend and then asks him angrily that, then, can't we send back heavenly demon? And he replies with guilt that, I know how to summon him, but I don't know how to send him back. Then Hui No asks, what are you going to do? Is master going to become a cripple at this rate? He replies, who doesn't know that? I'm thinking right now. The young master is still in pain and is trying to calm his consciousness. Meanwhile, Huan No is completely drenched in sweat and is thinking, damn it, I am sure that the demonic nature of the heavenly demon and the master's consciousness collided. There's no other way to explain this. Wait, demonic nature? That's it. Something clicks his mind and then he immediately says to Hui No, listen up, Hui No. I have one more demon soul pill. In other words, we can use the great fundamental once more. With this, we shall suppress the heavenly demon's demonic nature. Hui No looks at him with puzzled face and asks, what are you on about it? What are you going to suppress with the diamond soul pill? Huan No gets annoyed at his questions and says, you frustrating oldie. Did your smart head turn into a stone block? Then he tells him the plan that, we're going to put one more person in the master's body. Another legendary character of the Orthodox Murim. After listening his idea, Hui No replies, that's right. You are trying to neutralize the 2 natures by summoning a character to surprise that demonic energy. Then holding the bell in his hand, Huan No says to him, we have no time. The method is the same as earlier, so let's not waste more time and begin. Hui No also agrees with his fellow's plan and while holding the needles in his hand, says to Huan No that, let's try it. We shall leave the rest to heavens. Demonic nature, heavenly nature and the emperor, whoever appears must be someone from heaven. Then a new soul also appears in the young master's body and now he's lying peacefully because the demonic nature of the heavenly demon has been suppressed by the other soul of different nature. After completing the process successfully, both Huan No and Hui No are lying on the ground because of the tiredness and difficulty of the situation. Then Huan No says to Hui No, I'm definitely old, and Hui No is listening to him quietly while looking up in the air. Then the young master finally comes to his senses and gets UPS, and both of them are looking at him who's standing behind them. Then Huino says, "Master." Meanwhile Huano asks, "Are you alright?" The eye's color of the young master has also changed to brown along with his body shape and physique. He has got muscles and six-pack and a very strong body. Then holding his tummy, he says to them, "I am hungry, twin no. Is there anything to eat?" The young master wakes up after the successful process of soul summoning, and the souls of the heavenly demon and another soul from the heaven has been entered in his body. He asks for the food and Huino brings food for him, and then he starts stuffing his mouth with the food. It seems like he has been hungry for the ages, and both the old men are looking at him with surprise and worry. They both respect him very much and are very concerned about him and his health. Then looking at him, Huino says to his brother, "Did we succeed?" Huano is also looking at the young master's condition and then says, "I think so." The heavenly demon who is present in the young master's body and was listening to their conversation, says, "Succeed, my ass." Yunwan also listens to his words while eating and looks at the heavenly demon's soul with side eye who is flying in the air near him. Then the heavenly demon says angrily that, "Screw this. Why did you put me in such a cramped place?" Yunwan keeps eating when the other soul in his body says to the heavenly demon, "You must be that famous heavenly demon. You are much cooler than the rumors." Yunwan looks at the face of the other soul, and when he gets totally fed up, then he put his chopsticks on the table with anger and points his towards them and says to them, "You both, be quiet. Do you think you are the only ones in this place?" The heavenly demon gets angry at his interruption and asks him, "You bastard, don't you feel pain when I'm talking? Your head should feel like it's splitting apart, though." While touching the back of his head, he replies that, "Come to think of it, I feel like it has changed. It's certainly noisy, but it's not as bothersome now." The heavenly demon gets even more angrier than the before and asks, "What? Damn you! How dare you talk in that tone with me, the strongest existence in the world?" The other soul is listening to them quietly. Then the young master loudly says to the heavenly demon, "It's noisy, I said." Both twin No are looking at him with confusion. As a result, Huan Noah's strategy of suppressing the demonic Q1 of the heavenly demon with a person from the orthodox sect succeeded. The name of the second person who entered Yunwan's body was Huineng, a high priest revered as the sixth patriarch of the Shaolin Temple. Then wondering about the second soul, the young master gets happy and says, "It seems like a pretty amazing person has entered my body. Thanks to you, the heavenly demon can no longer bother me. Thanks, you fogey old monk. I mean, Huineng." The heavenly demon is angry at his insult. Meanwhile Huineng is smiling at the appreciation. Huino is looking at the young master and finds his language kind of vulgar and then says to him, "What kind of vulgar language are you using?" Yunwan points the empty bowl towards the old man and says to them, "Anyway, you too. Give me another bowl." Huano takes the bowl and runs for bringing food for the young master, saying, "Yes." Huino is looking at the master's face and his behavior with puzzled face and is wondering, his majesty is changing. Since three personalities coexist in his body simultaneously, it must be extremely chaotic. His temper will undergo sudden changes. What are we supposed to do about this? Yunwan looks at him and then says, "Huino. What are you doing? Go get me some water." He also leaves to get water for him, saying, "Yes." Later on, Huano asks young master that, "Pardon? What's your honorific title, my lord?" He replies to him, "What honorific title? Just call it a name." Then the young master says to the Huineng, "Hey, Huineng. You seem to be the most knowledge among us. Why don't you give me a name?" Huineng starts pondering about the name and then after a while he says, "A name, you say, what do you think about the name Impermanent?" Yunwan doesn't like his suggestion and replies, "Are you talking about impermanent as in, life is impermanent? No way. Using that name in Jianghu is no different from asking for death." Huineng feels sad at the rejection and then the young master says to the heavenly demon, "Heavenly demon, what about you?" The heavenly demon gets offended because he didn't ask him at first place but then smiles and says to the young master, "You foolish bastard. How can that old fogey know what awesomeness is? You should have asked me from the beginning." The young master replies to him, "Just give me some suggestion already." Then the heavenly demon smiles like an evil and suggests him the name Iron-Blooded Shura. The young master is looking at his evil smile and then after a while, replies to him, "Hey, what I want is a name, not some foreign title. Seriously. How did an ignorant bastard like you become the strongest in the world? The young master doesn't even like his suggested name. Then the heavenly demon says, "What? You arrogant bastard." Then the heavenly demon comes up with an idea that, "I'm going to take control of his body right now." But nothing happens to him, and the heavenly demon is quite confused at this and is wondering, why is he still fine? Soon the heavenly demon realizes that it is all because of that priest's soul, and then says to himself, "So, it's because of that bastard. That bastard is stopping me from controlling this body." The heavenly demon is very angry because he lost and the other two won, and is thinking that, "Damn it. In terms of head count, I'm losing out. Since I can't take control of his body, I have no choice but to cooperate with them first. However, when the time comes, I will definitely swallow your body whole, Zhu Yunwan." Meanwhile, the young master is still wondering about his new name and is thinking, "It's kind of weird to use my last name Zhu as it is, right?" When the young master observes the heavenly demon, he asks him, "Why do you keep mumbling to yourself? What? Have something to say?" Then again, the heavenly demon smiles like an evil and says to the young master, "That's right. Your martial name. I was thinking about your martial name. How about Heaven Destroyer? Doesn't it sound nice?" The young thinks for a while and then smile and replies to him that, "Destroyer of the heavens, Heaven Destroyer?" It seems that he liked that name. The young master is standing outside with the old twin No and tightens up the ribbon of his dress, and both of them are looking at him while standing behind. Then Huan No asks him, "My lord, I mean, young master, where are you going?" Yunwan replies politely that, "Didn't I tell you? I am going to roam around Murim." They are all standing outside the cave, and then Hui No asks him, "You're leaving already?" And he replies to him, "What's the big deal with that? I am just going out." Then Huan No tells him, "But you haven't had time to restore your martial arts yet." Then the young master puts his forefinger on his forehead and says to them, "I have all martial arts of the heavenly demon and Huineng inside my head. I can just give it a try on the way. You were the one who made it, yet you didn't know about it." Huino is very concerned about him and says to the young master that, "But, we don't feel comfortable sending you off like this, young master." The other also agrees with him, saying, "That's right." Yunwan looks at them for a while and then looks around and then goes near a tree and asks them while smiling, "Fine. In that case, will this put your mind at ease?" Both of them are looking at him while standing near a big tree, and then Huan No asks, "Pardon?" Then the young master calls Heavenly Demon, saying, "Heavenly Demon, let's use your martial art," and after saying this, the young master, using the heavenly demon's power, breaks that tree and then leaves from there. Both Huan No and Hui No are looking at him while leaving, and then Huan No asks, "Will it really be alright?" Hui No, while holding his long beard with his hand, replies to him that, "The Lord is already out of our control." The old Hui No glances at the damaged tree behind them and then says to him, "No, no. I'm not talking about that." Huan No looks behind at that crack in the soil and then that tree and says to his brother, "I am saying, if it's really alright to throw that kind of bomb into Murim." Both of them are now more concerned about the Murim instead of the young master, Yunwan. The season changes and winter comes. Hui No and Huan No are looking at the bare trees covered with snow, and Huan No is sitting, meanwhile Hui No is standing behind him. Then, holding his beard with one hand, Hui No asks his brother, "Is the master doing well?" Huan No replies to him that, "Don't worry. He'll survive somehow. He just resembles the late emperor very much, aren't you aware of it too, Hui No?" Hearing this, Hui No remembers something and is stunned. Then, his brother again says, he shouldn't have forgotten the scriptures. Somewhere in the mountains, covered with the snow, a man is fighting with a group of the people of some kind of association. That man is extremely injured and blood is coming out of his wounds and is getting absorbed in the snow. He says to them angrily that, "Trash bastard of the orthodox faction. No matter how much you try, you won't be able to break our spirits." He is the blue-faced demon king Ha Gunpyo, and he has thick, black mustaches and beard and also has a blue mark on his face and is very strong person. The leader of the other opponents is standing before, meanwhile his subordinates are standing behind, and Ha Gunpyo is sitting before him over his knees, shirtless, while holding his huge weapon in his hand. That man looks at him, smiles and says to him that, "Ha Gunpyo, you have the spirit of a martial master who has wandered around the generation, but this is where your luck ends. As long as we, the Northern Blade Association, step in." Gunpyo replies to him, "Right, that's what you should say. Aren't you the ones who originally acted up with your power? Then holding his weapon tightly, he says to him, the Northern Blade Association may be the dominant force in Jiangzhou, but I am also a disciple of a great school. Then Gunpyo passes him an evil smile and continues, saying, go and tell the Northern Blade Association leader. The day when I, Gunpyo, end his life will someday come. The Northern Blade Association leader is listening to him carelessly, and then after looking at him for a while, he says to him, I don't think that day will come, though. We've spread the net of heaven and earth to catch all the 7 kings of the demonic path. The likes of you should be grateful for this kind of treatment, don't you think? Gunpyo smiles and replies to him, a mere net of heaven and earth, this Gunpyo will. Meanwhile he interrupts him and says, stop the acting, Gunpyo, and Gunpyo is stunned at his words. Then that man says to him, do you think I won't know about your scheme? I must applaud your bravery on how you created a tumult to distract us so that your brother can escape. You must want to buy time, but you have met the wrong opponent. Gunpyo is still confused when his opponent raises his index finger in the air and says to him, heard that? What to do? I think your brother have gone to the underworld already. Gunpyo moves towards him in anger while holding his sword for the attack, saying, you orthodox bastards. Are you dead set on drying out the seeds of the demonic path? The Northern Association Blade leader also gets ready for the fight. Both of them are fighting with all of their might and using their best techniques and powers. A great fight is going on between them when the Northern Blade hits his opponent on his forehead. Then Gunpyo attacks back, but he blocks his attack successfully. Then the Northern Blade says to him, did you say the seeds of the demonic path? Getting rid of those things is the right thing to do, but he, being stubborn, replies to him, no matter how unruly you bastards act, if it's that person. He interrupts him, asking, that person? Are you talking about the Grandmaster of the demonic path Hyuk Woo-jong, that you adore so much? Then he comes closer to the Gunpyo and looking into his eyes. He asks him, should I let you in on a secret? Then he tells him the secret that both the Sword King of the Northern Sea and the Azure Sea Assassin have turned their backs. What even can the Grandmaster of the demonic path do? Can't you tell by how he isn't talking any measures, even when you all are dying right now? Gunpyo doesn't agree with him and says, he is not that kind of person. There will be times when he and our demonic path brothers shed tears of blood. At all costs. The Northern Blade is standing behind him and then looks at him with side eye and says, you talk too much. It doesn't suit your appearance. Then he orders his subordinates that, guys, get him. All of them jumps towards him with weapons for the attack, and he also gets up for the fight. Gunpyo attacks them using Thunderbolt Blade Arts, brutal demonic force. His opponent gets angry at his power and calls him, this boar-like bastard. He was fighting with those people when 3 people come from somewhere and are standing behind him. One of them asks Gunpyo, do you still have the inner energy left to use Enhance Aura QI? At first, he gets confused but then attacks them, which they blocked successfully. Gunpyo is looking at them with anger, wondering, he blocked my Enhanced Blade QI with his Enhanced Sword QI? Then he calls them, you bastards. They are the 3 swordsmen of Tianshan. One of them winks and says to him, Gunpyo, you're now the last of the Demon King clan's 7 kings of the demonic path. Today's hunt will be over after we eliminate you. Gunpyo replies to him that, to think that you would show off, had you are hunting a human, as expected of scummy orthodox warriors. That man with blue eyes replies to him arrogantly, I'm overworked because of you. Just die now. All 3 of them raises their sword simultaneously and uses the power invisible sword net and jumps towards him for the attack. Meanwhile in his head, Gunpyo is thinking that, brothers, I shall follow you very soon. Thinking this, Gunpyo uses Thunderbolt Blade Arts, the final strike, which produces some kind of current in his arm, then moves towards them for the attack using Thunderbolt Bottomless Force for the attack. They were fighting with each other when Yunwen comes there and attacks Gunpyo, and his weapon falls on the ground and also attacks the other 3. All of them stops fighting and are now looking at him with puzzled faces, but Yunwen smiles and says to them while placing his hands behind his head, pathetic bastards. I was watching over the fight because it was interesting, but you all are acting so arrogantly just because you are martial masters. The 3 swordsmen of the Tianshan and Gunpyo are looking at Yunwen with confusion and anger. One of them is wondering that, he stole our weapons in a flash. Who in the world is that guy? One the 3 swordsmen says to Yunwen angrily that, you bastard. Who are you to play a prank like this? But Yunwen doesn't get frightened and replies to him, well, I don't recall playing a prank though, but you see, Mr. Martial artist getting their weapons stolen, isn't that the greatest insult for them? The old man replies angrily, what? You're a chick still wet behind the ears. But his other fellows stop him, saying, Martial brother. Then he moves forwards towards the young master, greets him and asks him, who in the world are you? May I know your name? He is the second sword of Tian Shan, Ha Dukyang. The young master points towards himself and asks, me? Then he introduces himself, telling his new name, I am the heavenly demon scribe, Heaven Destroyer. The heavenly demons get happy at this and says to the young master while laughing, as expected, I like you pretty well. The young master looks at the heavenly demon with anger and then the heavenly demon replies immediately, fine. I'll be quiet. I can be quiet. Yunwen learned a scripture that torments the heavenly demon from the twin No. The second swordman replies happily that, so, you are, the heaven destroyer Ilshamushiil, the heavenly demon scribe. The heaven destroyer gets angry at this and says, what are you on about? It's just the heavenly demon scribe, heaven destroyer. One of the other two swordsmen who are standing behind, gets angry and says, idiots, why are you introducing yourselves? All the subordinates along with the three swordsmen and Ha Gunpyo are standing in the surrounding, meanwhile the heaven destroyer is standing in the center. Then the first swordman saying, step aside, moves towards the young master. Then he points his forefinger towards the heaven destroyer and says to him angrily that, how dare you try to outwit and belittle us? Seeing how you're blabbering about the heavenly demon and whatnot, there's no mistaking that you are also a practitioner of the demonic path. I shall kill you together with him. Then he orders his fellows to kill him. All of them moves towards the heaven destroyer for the attack. Meanwhile the heavenly demon says to the young master that, don't tell me you're just going to sit by, but the young master being confident, smiles and replies to the heavenly demon, do you think I'm about to die a vain death after enduring that hell-like time? Meanwhile one of them attacks him but he dodges efficiently and attacks back. Then the other two moves towards him for the attack and uses his hand for the attack. The heavenly demon who is looking at him fighting, says to him, you couldn't even use half of your power properly. But he replies to him angrily that, shut up. The heaven destroyer is fighting with them using all his might and then one of the three swordsmen calls his subordinates, you foolish bastards. Then a sword comes towards him from somewhere and he catches it and then he moves towards the young master for the attack. The young master is looking at him with confusion and then says, shoot. That man looks at the heaven destroyer's face and says to him, you shouldn't have gotten distracted. He is standing before him with the sword and then attacks him, thinking, this feeling, I got him. In the meantime, the heaven destroyer lifting the body of one of the three swordsmen up in the air, says to him, don't you know that your entire body was given to you by your parents? Why did you ruin his hair? But old man, are you allowed to cut your allies like this? It seems that man instead of cutting the heaven destroyer, cuts down his fellow. He gets angry at this and says, you arrogant bastard. Then the young master hits him in the face using his foot and he falls apart because of the force. The blood starts coming out of his nose and he's sitting on the snow over his knees. All of them are looking at the young master with anger and calls him, you bastard. Then the two men moves towards heaven destroyer for the attack but first he dodges them and then attacks back using his leg and martial arts technique. The swordsman whose nose is red is looking at them and then asks, what do you think you guys are doing? And then says to them, keep pushing with our number. The heaven destroyer comes closer to him, looks into his eyes and says, it looks like you like fighting with numbers. That man gets confused and steps behind. Then looking at him, he's wondering that, shit, he appeared in front of my nose without any trace. He was thinking this when he sees the heaven destroyer who's making a weird pose for fighting and while looking at him, he's thinking, what is that stance? The heavenly demon smirks and asks the young master, are you going to use it? The young master makes a weird pose and then hits on the snow with all his might and then creates different kind of circles around him. The heavenly demon gets happy at this and says, right, this martial art is like a symbol of mine. The heaven destroyer uses the heavenly demon rolling steps martial arts technique and creates a lot of duplicates of himself. Ha Gunpyo is looking at this with surprise and then asks himself that, am I seeing things right now? The swordsman says to himself that, is it an illusion technique? Then the young master looks at them with red eyes and asks, I'm not sure, why don't you see for yourself? Then he moves towards the young master with anger for the attack, saying, do you think we, the three swordsmen of Tian Shan would fall for a mere illusory technique? Then he attacks one heaven destroyer but nothing happens and he's wondering, the actual body is there? But then one heaven destroyer attacks from behind. Now 3 heaven destroyers are fighting at the same time and then one of them attacks the swordsman and cuts down his arm. He is looking at him with fear but they don't stop and starts killing others one by one but those who were alive, runs from there for their life. The young master is looking at them while they are escaping. Then the heavenly demon asks him, are you not going to chase them? And Huineng says, Amitba. The young master replies to the heavenly demon that, no, it's bothersome, so shall we wrap it up here for today? Ha Gunpyo is looking at him with confusion and then says, because it's bothersome, you're going to wrap it up here? Ha Gunpyo is wondering that, in this tilted world of Murim. The heavenly demon laughs like an evil and says to the young master, as I thought, you have the qualities to follow me. Huineng is also calm and chill and only says, Amitba. Ha Gunpyo says an incredible character has appeared. The young master hears some voice coming from behind and then he turns back and sees that the Ha Gunpyo is bowing down before him on the ground. The young master is looking at him with confusion then he gets up and says, Great warrior. Please allow me to come with you. Young master feels this a cringy and runs from there, saying, no way, you hairy old man. Ha Gunpyo keeps saying, Great warrior. Great warrior. But he does not stop. In Kaifeng City, the people are standing outside their houses in the streets and are talking about something. Murim was turned upside down. 2,000 swordsmen of the Northern Blade Association and 500 martial masters of the 9 Orthodox Alliance who went hunting for then 7 kings of the demonic path slaughtered 6 out of the 7 kings. It was no surprise that the Orthodox sects overwhelmed the 7 kings of the demonic path but the second news that followed began to set Murim into turmoil. Heavenly Demon Scribe, Heaven Destroyer. The one who slaughtered 528 people of the Northern Blade Association and 127 people of the 9 Orthodox Alliances, the appearance of the demon god. 3 people are standing and talking with each other about that incident when someone says to the other 2 that, did you hear about the Heaven Destroyer? The young master who was passing by, stops for a while for the purpose of listening the gossip that's going on there. One of them says, I heard that anyone who saw him died. And the other says, and his face is like that of a devil. But the third one tells the other 2 that, but Ha Dukyung, the second sword of Tian Shan, who managed to come back alive said he is a handsome young master. Then again, the second one says, anyway, the Northern Blade Association has already dispatched an investigation team, it looks like there is going to be a bloodbath in Murim. The heavenly demon who was listening the gossip and was enjoying it, laughs and says to the Heaven Destroyer, everyone is making a fuss about us. It was a splendid entrance, Heaven Destroyer. But the Heaven Destroyer instead of getting happy, looks at the people gossiping and then says to the heavenly demon, shut up. I feel like I just got caught up in a pointless fight. The heavenly demon gets offended at his insult and then says to him, what's there to be uncomfortable about? You even changed your clothes, right? But Huineng replies to the heavenly demon, I don't think that's what he meant. Then the heavenly demon asks Huineng, what? Then what's it? The Heaven Destroyer gets angry because of their noise and then says to them arrogantly, that's enough. You both are noisy. Then after thinking for a while, the Heaven Destroyer asks Huineng that, at any rate, since that bastard, Ha Dukyung knows my face, should I disguise myself now? Huineng suggests him, instead of disguising yourself, how about changing your impression? Hearing this, the young master asks, my impression? The Heaven Destroyer goes to the neutrality pavilion and the waitress there, while holding a cloth in her hand, greets him, saying, welcome? She is amazed to see such a handsome customer. The young master sits on a chair and she's standing still, staring at the Heaven Destroyer and then he says to the waitress while reading the menu, bring a bottle of alcohol and some simple snacks. But she is standing there, looking at his face and when he notices that, he asks her, why do you keep staring at my face? Suddenly, she opens her mouth because of the confusion and replies to him that, about that. Looking at her expressions, the young master is wondering, what's going on? Don't tell me she already knows who I am. She feels guilty and replies immediately, I apologize for being rude but this is the first time I have seen such a handsome customer in my 10-year working as a waitress. But he asks rudely, is that so? Then he goes from there, saying, then please wait a second. I will serve them to you right away. After few minutes, she brings snacks and alcohol for him, and when he drinks one shot of the alcohol, he put back the glass on the table with a little force and then says to himself, "What a pungent smell. It tastes different from the alcohol I used to drink in the palace." Huineng says to him, "Although I don't know what alcohol tastes like, maybe it's one of the things that brings the commoners joy. How do you feel? Does the alcohol of Murim taste different?" The Heaven Destroyer looks at the empty glass of wine for a while and then says, "The taste of alcohol, I had plenty of opportunities of taste it, but I didn't enjoy it. The one who enjoyed drinking was my uncle." Then he holds the glass in his hand, looks at it and says, "It's bitter. To me, alcohol has always tasted bitter." Then Huineng says, "From what I just heard, the illness of the mind must have made the alcohol bitter." Then the young master asks, "The illness of the mind?" Huineng replies to him that, "I will just say one thing. Although you inevitably committed murder this time, no one else can pay for your sins. So, please don't make the foolish mistake of fighting an avoidable fight and committing meaningless killing. By doing so, won't the day come when you can finally feel the sweetness of alcohol?" The Heaven Destroyer was listening to him quietly when the heavenly demon says to Huineng angrily, "That sounds just like what an old fogey monk like you would say. Do you even know the taste of alcohol? If you don't kill, then you will be killed. That applies not only to Murim but also to the world. Don't you know that too?" Huineng is still relaxed and replies to the heavenly demon, "Heavenly demon, this is the first time he has committed such excessive killing after coming to Murim. You should show him some generosity and learn to understand him." Heavenly demon is still angry and replies to him arrogantly, "I don't have that shitty generosity." Meanwhile they are busy arguing with each other. The young master is lost in his thoughts while looking at his hand and is wondering, "Yeah, I never knew the heavenly demon's martial arts would be that powerful. It was also the first time I felt so free. However, if I only use this power for my own benefit, how am I different from my uncle?" The heavenly demon is fighting with Huineng while holding him from his big mustaches when the young master says to Huineng, "Listen carefully, Huineng. When my drinks feel sweet, I am gonna get you a drink too." Huineng replies to him, "I can't drink alcohol." The Heaven Destroyer replies, "That's right. You were a monk." Someone enters the inn and is moving towards the young master, and when the heavenly demon sees him coming towards them, he alerts the young master by saying, "Hey, keep your guard up. Someone is coming towards you." Heaven Destroyer is sitting on a chair when a man comes towards him and is now standing near him. The young master is holding a glass with his hand and is thinking, "A member of the Southern Blade Coalition?" The man comes there and greets him, saying, "I am Tang Zhongwu from Sichuan province. He is from the Sichuan Tang clan and his name is Tang Zhongwu." The young master looks at him and asks, "Tang Zhongwu?" Then pointing towards his group members, offers Heaven Destroyer to join them, and he, while looking at their dresses and weapons, is wondering, judging by their appearance, they should be at a similar age as mine, and it seems like he's a martial artist. Since I was bored anyways, should I join them and gain some information? Then thinking this, he replies to Tang, "Join you, sure." The Heaven Destroyer gets up from his chair and joins that boys' groups. Tang Zhongwu says to his fellows that, "Everyone. Since the young master has gladly accepted our offer, let's greet one another." The young master says to them politely, "I was pretty lonely too." One of them gets up from his chair and greets him, saying, "Nice to meet you, young master. I'm Namgung Hyukrian, who gained the vain title of the Divine White Sword Dragon." He is the Divine White Sword Dragon, Namgung Hyukrian. The young master also greets him, saying, "Nice to meet you." Heavenly Demon says to the young master, "Look at his grit." The other boy from the group introduces himself, saying, "I'm Peng Jianghu, the Iron Blood Fist." One of the beautiful girls from the group members introduces herself, saying, "I am Namgung Ian. It's an honor to meet you, young master." Meanwhile, in her head, she's thinking that he's quite good looking. One girl of the group is getting jealous and is thinking, what is so good about him that everyone is this excited? She is Namgung Hyami. Heaven Destroyer sits with them while saying, "Yes, nice to meet you." One of them introduces himself, saying, "I'm Murong Jungjul of the Murong clan." The other one was also giving the introduction when someone interrupts, saying, "Now, I think that's enough introduction from our side, what about you?" The young master says to them, "Come to think of it, you all look like the descendants of prestigious martial clans. I don't know how to act since you all treat me very hospitably." Then the young master introduces himself, saying, "I'm a scholar named Yun." I mean, Wen Yun, who wanders here and there. It is such a great honor to be together with such great people. He reversed the syllables of his first name, Yunwan. Meanwhile, the heavenly demon is angry and is thinking that, why did you take this shitty name of Wen Yun after Heaven Destroyer? Shameless bastard. Who would know about your identity? So the boy replies to him, Wen Yun, you say. Nice to meet you, Sir Wen. Initially, Heaven Destroyer thought these guys were ordinary people of Murim who were of the same age as him. But hearing their introduction, he realized their 4 gentlemen and 4 ladies were unexpectedly people of great status. Unlike the Northern Blade Association and the Southern Blade Coalition, they belonged to a much mightier force of the Orthodox faction, known for righteous deeds, the 5-Clan League. And the pillars of that clan league were, renowned Namgung Clan, Tang Clan of Sichuan, Peng Clan of Hebei, Yen Clan of Jianzhou and renowned Murong Clan. To summarize, these people were the up-and-coming youngsters responsible for the future of the 5-Clan League, meaning their gold spoons. Then he asks them, but what brings you to this place, Kaifeng House? I thought this place was quite far from Chengdu and Jiangnan. Hearing this, the heavenly demon says to the young master that, what? Didn't you say you knew nothing about Murim at all? Meanwhile, the Heaven Destroyer is thinking that, when I was emperor, I almost memorized the map of the continent. Then at his question, Pen Jianghu replies to him, you won't know even if we tell you about that. Something has happened in Murim, and as we told you, we belong to an organization called the 5-Clan League. Then the girl, Haimai, while stuffing her mouth with the food, says to the young master, this place, Kaifeng, may be the beggar sect's headquarters, but it's also the base of the Northern Blade Association. After hearing all this, the young master could only say, I see. Meanwhile in his head, he's thinking that, my. Was this the base of the Northern Blade Association? Then he asks her, but how is your meeting here related to the fact that this is the Northern Blade Association's base? She put a bowl on the table with anger, saying, such a very curious man. Then she points her chopsticks towards him, saying angrily, what do you think? Because the Northern Blade Association is going to host the grand banquet of the Orthodox faction. While looking at her pointed chopsticks, he's wondering, I mean, how do you expect me to know that? The other boy with her scolds her, saying, Hayami, are you going to be rude to the guest? She gets upset at this and says to his brother that, fine, elder brother. Then while taking his chopsticks, the Heaven Destroyer asks frankly, so, because of the grand banquet of the Orthodox faction, all the Orthodox martial artists are assembling at the Kaifeng house? But again Haimai replies angrily, yes. And her elder brother is looking at her with disappointment. Then the young master, being nervous, says, I didn't know that the world of Murim was so fiercely divided into various factions. I'm amateur regarding Murim, so. Then Namgung Hyukrian says, I see. You must have been curious about the world of Murim. Murim is a fierce place, just as you said. Especially now, the root of the conflict is getting deeper and deeper. After hearing the word conflict, the young master asks, the root of the conflict? Then he tells him about the conflict that, the orthodox path and the demonic path. No matter how amateur you are about Murim, you should know this much, right? Heaven Destroyer replies immediately, I know that much. Then he continues, saying, even in the history of Murim, the two powers have never been so clearly separated as they are today. We're in a situation where every person in Murim must choose between the two, no matter what. Then the young master raises his 2 fingers and asks him, we must choose between the two at all costs. But there should be someone, who doesn't want to belong to either orthodox path or the demonic path. He fuses and replies to the young master while sitting cross-armed that, of course, there is. However, groups or people who are ambiguously sitting in the middle are regarded as enemies and are likely to be killed. After hearing that, the Heaven Destroyer is thinking, even when they're not in a grudging relationship, they're killed just because they didn't want to take sides? What an unreasonable measure. Then he says to him, I'm sorry for interrupting you, but when you said killed, who brings the accusation against them? Namgung frowns and closes his fist because of anger and hits on the table, saying, we, the Orthodox faction. All of them are sitting quietly for a while and then he continues, saying angrily, I belong to the Orthodox faction too. As such, you think I'm only flattering you, but I don't think that the Orthodox faction suppressing the demonic path is the only way to keep Murim's morales. The young master is looking at him with surprise, meanwhile the heavenly demon is looking at him with anger. Then the heavenly demon smirks and says to the young master, speaking his mind. Look at that guy. He's pretty open-minded for the orthodox faction. Then Haimai says in her brother's ears that, elder brother, you shouldn't say that in the front of many people like this. He feels guilty of his act and says to her, I was a bit too riled up. While looking at him, the Heaven Destroyer is thinking he may be an up-and-coming youngster of the Five-Clan League, but right now his opinion has no influence. He's right, but it's not realistic. But this man, he's worth watching carefully. Then the young master says, so, the situation in Murim is very complicated, I learned a lot. Then Haimai says to him, right. Everyone has their own circumstances, young master. Then that boy from the Orthodox faction asks the young master, you seem very interested in Murim, so please speak. Are you curious about anything else? Then the young master replies, frankly that, then, it may sound a bit presumptuous, but who is currently the strongest in the Jianghu? At this question, all of them are looking at him weird expression and he asks them, did I make mistake? While thinking, that's a sensitive question. Then the boy tells him that, it's fine. The strongest, you ask, I am not sure. Although there are some differences of opinion, the leading people among the 4 generation must be the Grandmaster of the demonic. Instead of the young master, the heavenly demon says angrily, who are they? I've never heard nor see them, but the Heaven Destroyer laughs and says, I see. Then he again continues, saying, but Jianghu is vast, and there are many unhidden high-ranking martial masters. I do think martial masters stronger than those I've mentioned may appear whenever and wherever. Then the young master, while pondering something, holds his chin with hand and asks, then, by any chance, how about Master Huineng, the 6th ancestor of Shaolin? Namgung replies, pardon? Master Huineng? It's hard to say since he's from 700 years ago. After hearing this, the heavenly demon starts making fun of the Huineng, saying, you can't do much in the stand of time, old man. But the old fogey man is relaxed and only says, Amitba. Then the Heaven Destroyer asks him, I see. Then, how about the heavenly demon? Both brother and sister are quite confused at his question and then the boy asks, heavenly demon? Meanwhile in his head, he's thinking that, why is he asking that? Then this time, he says to the young master with utter seriousness that, you're not completely clueless about Murim, though? You know the characters in the history of Murim, the story about heavenly demon is just implausible, so it's ambiguous how much we can trust. The heavenly demon gets extremely infuriated and thinks it as his insult and then says to the Heaven Destroyer that, ambiguous, my ass. Even the old people beyond the heavens know about this fact. The young master is wondering about the word, beyond the heavens? They were busy talking when the few people come there and are harassing a woman and the leader of the group, says to that woman, you bitch, how dare you think you could run away from us? She is crying and begging for her life that, please spare my life. While looking at their outfits, the Heaven Destroyer is thinking, that outfit, the Northern Blade Association. The people of the Northern Blade Association are harassing a girl and enters the Inn Kaifeng, following her. She is being threatened by those people. The Heaven Destroyer along with the 5-Clan League members is sitting and gossiping when they come there. The Northern Blade Association Law Enforcement Squad's Vice Captain, White Tiger Sword Ga Duxum holds the girl's hair in his hand and she's sitting on a floor. He sits near her and says to her angrily, leaving your father behind and running away, saying you want to survive by yourself, what a bold wench. She is begging for help, please save me. Someone says, please wait a moment. There is some kind of cyclone in the air and the vice captain is looking at this with confusion. She is Namgung Hyami and she appears there, in front of him while holding a sword in her hand. She is pointing the sword towards the vice captain who's holding the hair of the poor girl and a wild smoke is surrounding her. She says to him angrily, since when Kaifeng become this lawless? How can the martial artist of the orthodox sects oppress such a helpless girl? The other also sitting in the inn also start supporting Namgung and one of them says, yes, even you are from the Northern Blade Association, this is going too far. While the other boy says, that's right. While holding the hair strand in his hand, the vice captain says to that little girl, to think you dare poke your nose into our Northern Blade Association's business, do you think you will be safe after this? She smirks and replies to him, safe? You may be able to scare others with the name of Northern Blade Association but that will never work on me, Namgung Haim. People standing there, starts mumbling about her. One of them says, Namgung Haimi. While the other says, that means she is the daughter of the Azure Sky Divine Sword. The daughter of the great Namgung clan? Ga Duksum looks at her for a while and then says to her, "Lady. Not interfering in the affairs of other sects is the unwritten rule of Jianghu." She, while holding swords in her both hands, says to that old brat arrogantly that, "I'm not stupid enough to not know that. However, to not turn a blind eye to things that go against public order is what I should do as a martial artist." Then she looks at that girl's miserable condition and continues, saying, "And from what I can see, what you are doing is no different from kidnapping." After listening her, he winks and says to her, "I think you are doing this because you don't understand, this wench is Xue Zhufeng, the daughter of the 1,000-skilled snow tiger Xue Jingyi, the leader of Kaifeng's demon frontier sect. We have no choice because an arrest order has been issued for all members of the demon frontier sect. If you still don't want to get out of the way, we will have to use force." After hearing the word force, Namgong Hyukrian laughs loudly and says to Ga Duksum that, "Did you just say you would use force? Since when did the law enforcement squad of the Northern Blade Association act so arrogantly?" Then all the members of the 5-clan league steps forward to support their fellows. Meanwhile the young master, Heaven Destroyer, is standing behind and is wondering that, damn it, I shouldn't have joined them. Now the 5-clan league members and the people of the Northern Blade Association are standing face to face with each other and Xue Zhufeng is sitting on the floor between both the teams. Then Ga Duksum says to Hyukrian arrogantly, "Young master, because we are on official duties." Then he stops for a while and is wondering, judging from his outfit, that bastard must be someone from the great Namgong clan as well. Then he continues, saying, "Or are you trying to threaten me?" Hyukrian laughs like an evil with a full smile and then replies to him, "Threaten? If that's really the case, what are you going to do?" Duksum is looking at him with a weird face and then says to him, "Then, we have no choice but to report this to our superiors." Then someone from the behind says, "There's no need to report it." That man steps forward and he is the Northern Blade Association Law Enforcement Squad's captain, Smiling Eliminating Sword, Wu Hyunchung. He is a slim man and his hair is tied into braids, hanging in front. Meanwhile his weapon is stuck behind in his outfit. The vice captain is looking at the captain with the puzzled face. Hyunchung says to Hyukrian that, "The word retreat doesn't exist in our law enforcement squad's dictionary. Are you going to report something this insignificant?" After hearing the captain's voice, everyone bends over their knees and greets him, saying, "Captain." "I greet the captain." The Heavenly Demon and the Heaven Destroyer is looking at all this drama with carelessness, and then the Heavenly Demon gets angry at the captain's tone and then says, "What the? What's with that chopstick-like bastard?" Hyunchung says to him, "Young Master Namgung. Don't you think you're stepping out of line?" And he asks, "What?" Then that brat replies to him while holding the hair strand in his hand, "If the leader of the 5-clan alliance finds out about this, won't you be held responsible? I'm saying, won't you be put into a tough spot, if the story of the next head of the great Namgong clan, confronting the Northern Blade Association just because of a mere wench from the demonic path is to get out?" Hyukrian laughs and replies to him, "I dare you to say that again." Then he asks the young master, Namgung, that, "Am I wrong? If the relationship between the Northern Blade Association and the 5-clan league goes south because of you, will you take the responsibility then?" This time, instead of Namgung, Peng, who's standing behind, says angrily to the captain, "You bastard, how dare you threaten the next head of the Namgong clan? When we're still being nice, shut that mouth of yours." Hyunchung says to him rudely, "Shut up. If my memory serves me right, you must be a descendant of the Peng clan. Since I'm showing respect to young Master Namgung, you must be misunderstanding something. Given your age and status, do you think can say something like that to me?" Peng calls him, "This bastard." Then the captain orders his subordinates that order the members of the law enforcement squad who are surrounding this place to let no one go outside from this moment on. And they reply obediently, "Yes sir." Then holding his sword at his back, Hyunchung comes closer to the young Master Namgung and asks him, "What are you going to do now?" "Young Master, sir." The Heavenly Demon is still angry at his tone and attitude and then says, "That cocky bastard. From the beginning, those damn Orthodox sex bastards have always been wolves in sheep's clothing." Then the Heavenly Demon asks, "Why don't you knock them out, Heaven Destroyer?" Heaven Destroyer gets angry at his stupid idea and replies immediately that, "Are you crazy? If I use your martial arts, my identity will be immediately exposed." Then the Heavenly Demon replies carelessly, "What needless worry? Can't you just beat everyone to death so that no witnesses are left?" Heaven Destroyer is shocked at his stupidness and asks, "Are you serious? Then Huineng, who was listening to their conversation, says to him, in that case, why don't you use my martial arts? Then the law enforcement squad's captain says to Namgung, I ask what you are going to do, young master. Namgung Hyukrian closes his fist because of anger and then says to him, leave that girl to us. If you can't, we'll accompany that child and observe the entire process of your investigation. Whether her father is a member of the demonic path or the world's public enemy, it has nothing to do with her. If you refuse even this, we won't let it slide either. Hearing this, the captain laughs loudly and Namgung is looking at him with puzzled face. When the vice-captain Duxum looks at the changed expressions of the captain Hyunchung, he starts wondering that the captain's expression has changed. That expression is something he shows when he wants to kill. Then the captain Hyunchung says to Namgung Hyukrian that you're carrying the halo of the clan on your back, yet you are completely ignorant about how the world works, try taking her then. All of them takes out their swords and gets ready for the fight, and the squad captain also takes out his sword. Now, Namgung and the captain are looking into each other's eyes. The Northern Blade Association Law Enforcement Squad's captain, Hyunchung, smirks and then says to the young master, Namgung, as expected, this won't do. I can't stand looking at the proud face of some young master of rich house. Then he holds the girl's hair and says, I will kill this bitch here. When the young master sees that girl screaming, he says to the captain, you wicked bastard. Is that something you can do as a member of Orthodox sect? Then while holding his chin, the captain looks at her with filthy eyes and says, yeah, killing her would be too much, right? How about this? Saying this, he starts misbehaving with her and torn her shirt, and when Namgung sees his ridiculous behavior, he says out of utter surprise, that trash. The young master, Heaven Destroyer, who was looking at his ridiculous behavior quietly, finally gives up, saying, I can't stand this anymore, and then he hits the captain with his foot in his mouth, using his martial arts techniques. He hits him with this much force that he falls apart. Both Hyami and her brother is shocked and are looking at him with surprise. Then she says, elder brother. Her brother Hyukrian smiles and says, that is Heaven Ascending Step. The Shaolin's martial art. The Heaven Destroyer is flying in the air. Meanwhile, the people of the Northern Blade Association and 5 Clan League group members are looking at him with shock, and he's looking at the captain, who is sitting on the floor over his knees. While holding his injured chin, the captain says to the Heaven Destroyer, how dare you, bastard. The young master is floating in the air, and then while floating, he moves towards the captain, and all the people around are looking at him with stunned and puzzled faces. While looking at him with stunned face, the captain is wondering that, what the hell, he's floating? Does such a Qinggong really exist? I don't think he's a member of the 5 Clans League either. Where did this kind of bastard come from all of a sudden? The Heaven Destroyer comes near him, looks into his eyes and says, let the child go. If you don't, be ready to die by my hands today. The heavenly demon takes advantage of the situation and says to the young master, that's right, kill him. But the Huineng replies, oh no, sir. Then the captain says to the Heaven Destroyer, I don't know who are you, but why in the world are you doing this? Then while trying to hold his sword, the captain says, I am the Northern Blade Association's, but the Heaven Destroyer interrupts him by hitting him in his face. Then after slapping him, he says, I've heard countless times that you're the dog of the Northern Blade Association. Stop it and let her go. Then while placing the hand on his cheek, the captain says to the young master that, I can't do that. Even if you are a martial art, the word retreat doesn't exist in our law enforcement squad's diction. But the captain couldn't even complete his sentence when the young master hits him in the belly using his hand and then kicks him one by one on his weak points. After being hit by the young master, the captain's wondering, my pressure points. Then the young master again hits him in the face and then in his belly, saying, I'm going to hit you for real next time. The captain's nose and mouth is bleeding, and then he says angrily to his subordinates that, law enforcement squad, kill that bastard. Holding their weapons in their hands, the people of the law enforcement squad move towards the Heaven Destroyer for the attack. While scratching the back of his head carelessly, he says, seriously, and then takes the glass bottle with his foot and throws it towards one of the subordinates. That bottle hits him in his face, and the vice president is shocked to see that. Meanwhile, the young master moves towards him, holds him from his face and also hits him. Then one by one, he starts fighting with the other people of the squad, and the captain is shocked to see his skills. The young master, using the Shaolin's martial arts techniques, hits one man's face on the floor with that much force which created the cracks in the floor's bricks, and the 2 men are standing on each side, looking at him. Then while looking at one of them, the young Master Heaven Destroyer smiles and says, "Why do these guys keep acting up while relying on nothing but their numbers?" Then the vice captain, while holding his sword in his hand, moves towards him for the attack, calling him, "This cocky bastard." But the young master dodges his attack and then uses his fingers for attacking back. Then one subordinate at the back, moves towards the Heaven Destroyer while holding a sword, saying, "Die." But he, without turning his back, slaps him in the face. The young master, Namgung Hyukrian, is looking at the martial techniques used by the Heaven Destroyer and is wondering, bamboo leaf fist, celestial palm, bodhisattva palm, if my memories serve me right, those are all Shaolin's supreme techniques. The captain gets angry and while holding his sword for the attack, says, "Bastard." But the young master, Heaven Destroyer, uses the vigorous Vajra palm technique and hits him with great force. Namgung is stunned to see that and says, "That's undoubtedly the supreme indestructible palm. Is he really a martial master who has learned all the 72 supreme techniques of Shaolin?" The people of the law enforcement squad are lying on the floor, meanwhile the Heaven Destroyer is standing there, between them. Namgung Haimai gives a cloth to the girl so she can cover herself and then asks her politely, "Are you alright?" And she replies with, "Yes." The law enforcement squad's captain is lying on the floor in the miserable condition, looking at the Heaven Destroyer's shoes. Then he sits near him and looks into his eyes. Then he uses the sound transmission, which is the art of secretly delivering sound to a distant opponent, and says to the captain Hyunchung that, "Listen carefully because I'm only going to say this once." The captain says, "Sound transmission." Then Heaven Destroyer says to him, "Order all the members of the enforcement squad to retreat now. And let this matter go immediately. If you refuse to listen to my words, I'll make you to experience pain, unlike anything you've gone through before. Do you understand?" Then the captain nods his head. Then the Heaven Destroyer gets up, saying, "All right, then." All the people in the surrounding are looking at him with shocking expressions, and then he turns and looks back at the people, standing there. The Heaven Destroyer starts sweating out of the utter confusion and is wondering, "Damn, did I overdo it?" The young Master Heaven Destroyer is standing there, laughing, and then he says to the people, standing there, "Well, I think we should leave it at that and start cleaning up the store now." The sky was clear, and after the cleanup was done, inside the neutrality pavilion, although it was awkward, all the awkward youths were sitting at the same table. The people of the Five Clan League are sitting on the one side of the table, meanwhile the Heaven Destroyer and the captain Wu Hyunchung are sitting on the other side of the table, and the table is full of food and drinks. Then the young Master Heaven Destroyer hits the captain's back frankly and says to others that, "So, I suggest we sit together to eliminate any pent-up resentment." Namgung Hyukrian is looking at him quietly, and then Peng says, "I am speechless. There should be a limit on how much you look down on others. How can you laugh after making a fool out of us like this?" Namgung Haimai also looks offended and says, "That's right, young master. Your joke went too far. You pretended to be an amateur, but the amount of inner energy you possessed was incredible." But the other girl is thinking that, true, he was so cool. The Heaven Destroyer greets them and says, "My apologies. Due to unavoidable circumstances, I had no choice but to lie about my identity. I hope you don't resent me too much. However, it is true that I am an amateur to Murim. As this is my first time coming to Murim, I hope you will find it in your gracious heart to forgive me for lying to you." Namgung Hyukrian laughs and says, "Young master, one." Heaven Destroyer asks, "Do you have a question for me?" Then Namgung says with seriousness that, "I don't want to be tied to what happened in the past, and break a new relationship. However, wouldn't it be better if you told us about your unavoidable circumstances, so that everyone would feel less betrayed? What is your true identity?" Heaven Destroyer looks at him while scratching the back of his head and then says, "Well, to be honest, it isn't something I can recklessly talk about, but I understand. As young Master Namgung said, fate has brought us together like this. So, I won't hide it from you. I have inherited the mantras of Venerable Huineng, the sixth patriarch of Shaolin Temple." All of them are shocked to hear this, and then Namgung Haimai asks, "Pardon?" The heavenly demon looks at the young master with anger and says to him, "You are the best at making things up," but Huineng replies to the heavenly demon that, however, it's not like he's completely wrong. Namgung Haimai then says to the young master, "That's impossible. I can't understand this." The Heaven Destroyer looks at her and asks, "Excuse me?" Then she says to him, "You know, Venerable Huineng was a man from the period of the Tang dynasty. How can you inherit his mantra?" Are you saying you've become an immortal? Then Peng says, that's right. This is utter nonsense. Then the heavenly demon smirks and says to the heaven destroyer, what now? I don't think your lie is working. Then the young master ponders for a while and then continues, saying, I understand. My explanation wasn't clear enough. Of course, I haven't met him in person. I was born and raised on Mount Tai. One day, in a deserted cave, I happened to find his traces and scriptures. I went to the cave every single day after that. It wasn't easy for me to understand the text, but after many years, although lacking, I was able to carry on his legacy. Then Haimai replies to him, I see, but she's still confused and wondering that since I saw him do it in person, I can't help but believe him. Then her brother, holding his chin, says to the young master, seriously. You have truly gained an incredible lucky encounter. Then the young master, Heaven Destroyer, says, anyway, I would greatly appreciate it, if you can forgive me for unintentionally deceiving you. The boy greets him, replying, that's absurd. If this isn't a blessing for the Orthodox sects in Murim, what is? It's us who have to be careful about the way we treat you from now on, young master. The Heaven Destroyer gets happy at this and asks, careful? What do you mean by that? Then Namgung replies frankly, one of the most important things in Murim is seniority. As some who has Shaolin's divine existence as his master. How dare we treat you carelessly? Then Namgung asks everyone, don't everyone think so? And then everyone agrees with him and replies, that's right, brother. Then one of them says, you are right. Then he says, now, let's raise our glasses. The captain of the Northern Blade Association Law Enforcement Squad's captain is also sitting with them and is looking at the young master and wondering, damn it. Why I am drinking with these bastard. But then using the sound transmission, the young master replies to him frankly, hey relax. What are you so upset about? He is surprised that the young master could hear his thoughts and then suddenly turns his head towards left and looks at his face who is busy in drinking. Then the young master while laughing, says to the captain, get lost if you're going to ruin the mood. And you also know what will happen if you carelessly run your mouth, right? Looking at him, the captain is thinking that he's using the YNYNG cultivation techniques, which separates thoughts and actions. To think he could casually perform such a transcendent technique. Then the young master looks at him and says, great warrior Wu. He's startled and then replies, yes. Heaven Destroyer looks at him, smiles and asks him, there won't be any other mishaps after this, right? The captain also passes him a smile and says obediently, of course, I assure you there won't be any, sir. Then after this, the young master says to him that, then, I think it's best for you to go now, great warrior Wu. You still need to treat your injuries, and he replies immediately, yes, yes. Thank you so much for your concern. Then at night the young master, Heaven Destroyer tells them that he couldn't find a place to stay. Then the young master, Namgung asks him, you couldn't find a place to stay? Then he smiles and says, this is great. Since we already left our equipment in the inn next door, let's stay together. There is a hot spring and the young master is taking bath there and says, I try to live a quiet life, but the world isn't in my favor. The heavenly demon replies to him that such is the life of the strong. Then the Heaven Destroyer looks at Huineng, smiles and thanks him, saying, I owe you a lot this time Huineng, and he also replies politely that it's nothing worth mentioning. The boy is relaxing in this hot spring and says, what a hectic day, when an old man appears there and come towards him, saying, hey Heaven Destroyer, come to your senses. The Heaven Destroyer opens his one eye and looks at him who is standing near him and says, you. That old hairy man with a blue mark on his face comes there and looks at the Heaven Destroyer. His name is Ha Gunpyo and he is one of the 7 kings of the demonic path. The Heaven Destroyer is looking at his face and wondering, this bastard is. Then he remembers about the incident that took place, few days ago in the snowy mountains. When he fought with the people of the Northern Blade Alliance when they were trying to kill this demonic king and then he defeated them. And after seeing his power, Ha Gunpyo bows down before him and he ran from there, saying, no way, you hairy old man. And he was sitting behind, calling him, great warrior. Then looking at him, the young master is thinking the guy I saw on the snowy mountain the other day, who would have thought that nuisance would follow me all the way here. Then Ha Gunpyo greets him and loudly says, great warrior, please accept me. The pitch of his sound was this much loud that the Heaven Destroyer covers his ears with his hands and then says to him, whoa. My ears are gonna burst, you bastard. Then the Heaven Destroyer asks him, you really followed me all the way here? He, while hitting his chest, says, I'm already dead once. Because you saved me, I will devote my whole life to you, great warrior. But the young master smirks and says, what a hopeless bastard. The heavenly demon, who is listening to their conversation, laughs an evil smile and says, so what? At this point just take him in as your subordinate. The young master starts pondering about the heavenly demon's idea that, a subordinate, however, if I bring that fool with me, it will draw too much attention. A place nobody can see. After wondering for a while, he says, fine. I will accept you as my subordinate. In the Mount Tai, the mysterious little peak, the trees are still covered with the snow, and Huan No and Hui No are gathering the logs and are making their bundles. Both of them hear some kind of voice, and then Huan No gets up and says to his brother, what's with the sound that I've been hearing since earlier? Then both of them sees a man who is carrying his luggage at his back and is moving towards them. Huan No looks at him and asks, what's with that bastard? Ha Gunpyo reaches there and then says happily, I finally found it. He remembers about his discussion with the young master, Heaven Destroyer, when he said to him that, fine, I will accept you as my subordinate. And he replies with utter happiness, great warrior. Then the young master says to him, however, with your current skills, you are nothing but a burden to me. So go to the place I tell you right now and improve your skills. Then Gunpyo asks, the place you tell me to go right now? Ha Gunpyo is bowing down over his knees in front of Huan No and Hui No and says to them obediently, this lowly one is azure-faced demon king, Ha Gunpyo. Following the order of his lordship, I've come to greet my masters in Mount Tai. Both of them are looking at him with puzzled faces, and then Huan No asks him, who are your masters? This is a place no one should know about. So how could this bear-like bastard? Hui No says nothing but is standing quietly. In the meantime, in Murim, the young master, Heaven Destroyer, is sitting cross-legged and is practicing the Shaolin martial arts. Huaining places a hand on his back and says to him, what in the world are you doing, young master? Please concentrate on the flow. The flow of energy is like a wave, so you just have to follow it without going against it. Heaven Destroyer is trying his best to concentrate, and when Huaining says, stop, he opens his eyes and fuse. Then Huaining says, you did great, sir. Your control of inner QI has gotten better. The heavenly demon gets annoyed and asks the young master, seriously, what's the point of doing such basic training? Venerable Huaining replies to him, Sir Heavenly Demon, the basics are important. Then the heavenly demon says to the Heaven Destroyer, by the way, Heaven Destroyer, have you decided on what you're going to do from now on? He looks at him and replies carelessly that, who knows? I'm not sure about it yet. Then the heavenly demon, while pondering something, says to him, I want you to hone my martial arts, but your body is simply too weak. Since you haven't made any plans yet, why don't you let me design it for you? He smirks and replies, in your dreams. The heavenly demon gets angry at this and asks, what? Then the Heaven Destroyer lays on the ground with his arms folded behind his head and then says to them, even if I don't have any big plans, I'll do whatever my heart tells me to do. I don't want to give anything up again, you know. The heavenly demon smiles like an evil and then says to the young master that, all right. Don't give it up, then. It's not bad to live in the world and achieve everything you want to. But the Huaining, being realistic and serious, says to him, Sir, if you look at the dark side of life, what seems to be disturbed in the eyes, is also flowing according to the order. Don't waste your life on vain obsession and vanity. That would follow the providence of the universe that gave you this power. While listening to their conversation, the young master is thinking, how come it feels like I'm living with a bully and a stiff old man? Then he gets up and while sitting, says to them angrily, that's enough. Both of you stop. I am the one to decide how I live my life anyway. More importantly, it seems that only the martial arts parts of your memories have been transferred as they are, while the rest of your memories are nowhere to be found. As if someone had intentionally messed it up, what should I do for it to become whole again? Then the heavenly demon tells him that, it will happen naturally when your inner QI and state become more nature. For example, even if you only have 600 years worth of inner QI, not only will you be able to unite us completely, but you will also be able to do all sorts of tricks. Heaven Destroyer looks at him and asks, tricks? Then the heavenly demon laughs and replies to him, that's right. If you are killed by death feigning grand technique before we go to unification, we'll temporarily be able to act in your stead, and in the state of perfect unity, we will be able to free ourselves from you. Death feigning grand technique is a technique of lowering your body temperature, stopping your heartbeat and breathing as if you are dead. Meanwhile in his head, the heavenly demon is thinking, and at that time I'm going to process your body. Then the heaven destroyer asks him, free, you say? The heavenly demon replies to him, that's right. It means we can go anywhere. To the underworld or into another body, and after hearing this, the young master only says, free. At night, the heaven destroyer is seeing a dream about his childhood, and he sees his grandfather who is standing and his back is facing him. He is constantly calling his master, grandfather. I am Yunwan. Why can't you recognize me? After you left, I've been through so much, but what bothered me most was how much I missed you, grandfather. He is constantly crying and saying all this to his grandfather. His grandfather holds his face with his hand and then says to him, don't be sad, Yunwan. You aren't alone anymore, right? You have a different path to go. That's why you must not return the pain you suffered to the word. Please don't become a demon driven by revenge and become a strong person, Yunwan. Mark my words. And then suddenly his grandfather disappears and he keeps calling him, grandfather. Please don't go. He suddenly wakes up, saying, grandfather, and he realizes that he's crying. The heavenly demon says to him, wake up, heavenly demon scribe heaven destroyer. He gets up and is now sitting on his bed. Then the heavenly demon asks him, heaven destroyer, you all right? Huineng also looks at his miserable condition and asks, sir, what kind of dream did you have that made you suffer so much? He replies to both of them, damn, it's nothing. Then he smiles and says to the heavenly demon that, I woke up thanks to you. Thanks, heavenly demon. The heavenly demon replies to him, why don't you have that word until later? And he asks, what? Then the heavenly demon tells him that, someone's coming into this room right now. All of them are looking at the door of the room, and then suddenly the door opens and a woman is standing at the entrance of the room. While removing his blanket, the heaven destroyer asks, who in the world come here this late? At night, the young master heaven destroyer is sitting on his bed while talking with the heavenly demon and Huineng when the heavenly demon tells him that someone is coming towards this room. While removing his blanket, he's thinking that, is it an assassin sent by the Northern Blade Association? Ha Gunpyo should have gone to Mount Tai already. Then the heavenly demon tells him, judging from the footsteps, it's a girl. The young master looks confused and asks, what? Who? Then a woman appears at the entrance of the room and she is Namgung. Meanwhile he is sitting on the bed, she is looking at him with affection and love, but he is looking at her with confusion. Then he asks her, lady, what is the world did you come here for? She comes near his bed and while placing her one hand on the side of the bed, she gets closer to him and says, young master, from the moment that I saw you, I already felt that we are destined to be together. Then she, while holding him from his arms, says to him, I feel like I'm going to lose you if I don't master up the courage. He is confused and shocked at her behavior and asks, pardon? What are you doing right now? Looking at the situation, the heavenly demon loudly laughs and says, isn't this a good thing? But Huineng says, you can't do this, sir, Namo Amitba. She is getting closer to him while he's sitting on the bed and says to him, you are so handsome and charismatic. She is looking into his eyes and then he suddenly holds her cheeks with his hand and says to her, lady, we're both going to be in trouble if you keep acting like this, so please stop and go back. She says to him, please let me go. It hurt when he held her from her cheeks, so he apologizes, saying, I'm sorry. Her eyes are teary and while holding her red cheek, she says to him, young master, how can you be so cold, do you hate me? He replies to her, that is not it. To an amateur like me who has just entered Murim, you are way above league. I will accept your gestures with a grateful heart. She is sitting on a bed with him and then says to him, that's true, you must have come to Murim with great ambition, I understand. I will just go back for today. He is looking at her with confused face but says to her, thank you so much for your understanding, Lady Namgung. Then she says to him, however, even though I am taking a step back this time I will not give up on you, young master, and he only replies, yes. Then she leaves the room and he's looking at the closed door meanwhile sitting on his bed. Then the heavenly demon says to him angrily, this simpleton. Haven't you heard of this saying that heroes like women? And it seems that the heavenly demon is quite disappointed with the young master, but Huineng appreciates him, saying, "No. You did a great job, sir." The Heaven Destroyer smiles and says, "Damn. All sorts of shit are happening." Then he gets up from his bed, and when the heavenly demon sees him doing this, he asks, "What's this? Even after acting like that, are you trying to go to her room right now?" He scolds the heavenly demon, saying, "Stop speaking nonsense, heavenly demon. I am having a lot of my mind, so let's go outside and get some fresh air." The sky is full of stars and he is flying in the air, here and there, and then the heavenly demon says to him, "It look like you are handling the heavenly demon flying technique quite well, but where are you going? Living however you please is nice, but are not you going to sleep?" He replies to the heavenly demon that, "I have heard something from the twin nose. Seeing my grandfather in my dream reminded me of someone I should meet." Then Huineng says, "Come to think of it." Heaven Destroyer says, "Yeah, I don't just come to Kaifeng to have fun, you know." After flying for a few moments, he reaches his destination and lands on the ground. Now is standing and looking at the building and then says, "How imposing. It is the Gennady Temple." Looking at the temple, the heavenly demon asks him, "What? Did you come here to pay your respect or something?" Then he replies, "No," while flying again in the air, and tells him that, according to the twin nose, the beggar gang's HQ is in this place. In the beggar gang, the number of knots on waist indicates identity. The two beggars appear there with the knives in their hands, and while looking at them, he's thinking that, there are 2 knots of their waists. They should be informants of the beggar gang. The information I heard from Namgong Hyukrian is quite useful. Then one beggar whose one eye is covered with an eye patch, asks the young master, "Who are you? What business do you have here?" The young master smiles and replies to him, "My name is Wen Yun. I came here to see the formal leader of the beggar gang, Sir Lung Chanho." Both of them gets far away from him, saying, "Wen Yun?" And he's looking at them with confused face. Then he asks, "Are you perhaps the Jade-Faced Divine Dragon Great Warrior Wen Yun?" He asks, "Jade-Faced Divine Dragon? I don't know when I got that nickname that I don't know about, but it's true that I am Wen Yun." Then that beggar asks the Heaven Destroyer, "Are not you the one who had a class with the Northern Blade Association yesterday at the Northern Neutrality Pavilion?" He replies to his question, "That's me." While looking at them, the young master is wondering, as expected, they said the beggar gang has eyes and ears all over Murim. They really know everything. Then one of them says, "For now, please follow us. We will guide you." He enters the beggar gang's HQ reception room and looks around. A man with 3 knots on his waist comes there and greets him, saying, "Hello young Master One. Please forgive us for the rudeness we shot at the entrance." Looking at his knots, he's wondering that, 3 knots. He must hold quite the position in the sect. He also greets him, saying, "Not at all." Then that man asks him, "By the way, may I ask what business you have with our grand sect leader?" Heaven Destroyer takes out the Emperor's token from his shirt and hands over it to him, saying, "Can you show this to him, then he should know why I came here." He looks at the token and replies, "I understand." Then the Heaven Destroyer sits on the chair. Meanwhile that man, while leaving from there, greets him, saying, "Then please wait a moment. I will inform the Grand Set leader immediately." The young master says, "Excuse me, by the way." And he asks, "Do you need anything?" Then the Heaven Destroyer says to him, "You seem to do me a favor without asking anything. May I ask the reason why?" That man laughs and replies to him that our beggar gang and the Northern Blade Association can be considered enemies in Kaifeng. It's so refreshing to hear how you humiliated those bastard, young master. Although I don't know what kind of connection you have with our grand sect leader, we are also interested in what you will do, young master. That's why you don't have to feel indebted to me." And he replies, "I see." Then that man says to him nicely that, "Then, I will come back. Please make yourself at home." The Heaven Destroyer looks around and is thinking, at any rate, it may not be flashy, but the structure of their HQ is excellent. Unlike their appearance, the beggar gang is a force to be reckoned with. Looks like there's a steep price to pay if I look down on them as mere beggars. He was lost in his thoughts, when suddenly a man appears there while holding the token in his hand, and the Heaven Destroyer is stunned at his entry. The Heaven Destroyer looks at the knots on his waist and is wondering, that's an incredible amount of knots. That man shows the token to the Heaven Destroyer and asks him, "Is young master the one who brought this token here?" The young master looks at him and replies, "Yes, that's correct." After the confirmation, the man bows down over his knees before him and loudly says, "This lowly subject Peng Chanho greets your majesty, the emperor. Please forgive your lowly subject for his disloyalty." The heaven destroyer is utterly dumbfounded and is thinking, what is going on? Then the beggar king Chanho greets the young master, saying, "From now on, I will risk my life to support you, your majesty." He is the beggar king Peng Chanho, beggar gang previous gang leader, grand gang leader. The heaven destroyer is looking at him, smiling and wondering, as expected. Then he remembers the time when Huino told him that, please go to Kaifeng to meet with the grand gang leader. You will need to use the emperor's token again. And then remembers about his dream which he saw last night when his grandfather said to him, "Don't be sad, Yunwan. You are not alone now, aren't you?" Recalling his dream, makes him happy and is thinking that, seriously, grandfather, I can't hold a candle to you. The tea is already being served on the table and Peng sits before him on a chair and asks, "Are Huino and Huano doing all right?" The heaven destroyer replies to him, "I bet they are, although it's been quite a while since I last saw them." Peng felt that he was uncomfortable, so he says to him, "Your Majesty, please speak comfortably with me." Then the young master replies to him frankly, "No. I am more comfortable like this. What's more, I'm no longer the emperor, so you don't have to be so courteous with me." Then the beggar king, Peng again greets him out of the great respect and says, "Then this lowly subject will do as you said, your majesty." "My lord, although I and the twin nose are the only forces His Majesty Taizu Imperial planted in Jianghu, whenever you order us, we will do our best to support you." Hearing this, the young master laughs a little and then greets him, saying, "No, beggar Peng, I no longer wish to be involved in politics. Uncle is now, this era's hero. I have no intention engaging in the family quarrel again, so please don't say such a thing." Then the beggar king, after hearing this, replies to him, asking, "I understand. In that case, what are you planning to do from now on, my lord?" Hearing his question, the young master ponders for a while and then says to him, "Even though I am no longer the emperor, I can't live a miserable life, that's why I am thinking of reigning Jianghu as its emperor. If the beggar gang, led by beggar king and the twin nose join forces, most of the sects in Jianghu won't even be able to put up a proper fight. It's not impossible to get the big forces to surrender first, right? What do you think?" Then the young master looks at the beggar Peng, who is listening to him with full concentration, and then continues, asking, "Beggar Peng, will you be able to cause a bloodbath for my sake?" After listening to him completely, Peng asks, "You want to call a bloodbath?" And the young master replies, "That's right." Then the beggar Peng says to the young master that our beggar gang isn't even affiliated with the 9 Sects Alliance, the 9 Orthodox Alliances. Do you know why? The young master replies, "I don't know." Then the Peng tells him the reason behind that, it was to maintain our gang's independent system. Even though our gang exists everywhere in Jianghu, great power and determination are required. If the gang members want to throw themselves into the fire, fit and follow my order. However, everything we do is for the sake of the heaven's order." Then the beggar king smiles and says to the young master, "If you order it, even if it's wrong, we will carry it out with no questions asked." After this, the heaven destroyer is thinking, as expected, my grandfather truly had loyal subordinates. He could have simply brushed it off as a rude request from a little boy. Yet he remained faithful despite being the grand leader of such a strong force like the beggar gang. The longer I get to know him, the more I understand how increased grandfather was. Thinking this, the young master smiles and says to the beggar king, "I'm sorry, beggar king. It was simply a joke." Hearing this, Peng feels that he made a mistake and immediately replies, "Oh my. Did this old man commit disrespect without knowing it was a joke?" Heaven destroyer laughs loudly and replies to him, "What respected? Just your word alone gave me so much confidence. When the time come when I need your help later, will you listen to my request again?" Peng greets him and replies obediently, "Of course." Then the sun sets in the west and both of them are still sitting on a chair, talking, and then the beggar king, Peng Chanho, asks him, "By the way, my lords, your name is already well known all over Kaifeng. I heard that you use Shaolin martial arts. May I ask what happened?" The young master replies to him, "It's too long to explain, so please hear it from the twin nose later," and then asks him, "By the way, are you attending the Righteous Path Grand Banquet?" He tells him that, "My disciple will be participating. If you are going, I will go and watch too, my lord." Then the Heaven Destroyer gets up from his chair, saying, I will see you later then. When the Pung sees him leaving, says to him, My lord, please wait a moment. Then the beggar king takes him to the wall and then touches the wall. As soon as he touches one brick, the wall slides and the young master is stunned to see that hidden room. Then the Pung says to the young master that, please follow me. I want to show you something. The young master is amazed to see the collection of the swords in that room, and there are variety of swords present in that room. The swords are also hanging with the roof the room, and looking at the swords, the Heaven Destroyer says, what an incredible place. Looking at the swords, the heavenly demon says, they have collected a lot. Then looking at the chains on the roof, the beggar king, Pung says, they are weapons that make your heart shudder just by looking at them. These are all famous weapons from the Han era, and the Heaven Destroyer also agrees with him, saying, this is indeed an amazing armory, but how much further do we have to go? Then Pung comes near another wall and touches it, saying, now, we are here. The wall slides and the young master is stunned to see the two swords that are leaning against the wall in a secret place. There is a big black sword and the thin white sword, and both are beautiful and shining brightly. Standing near the swords, the beggar king says to the young master, I kept what His Majesty Taizu Emperor had acquired. I think it's time for these swords to find their rightful owner. The heavenly demon is extremely shocked to see that and says, wait, that is. But Huineng is calm and chill and says, oh, Amitba. Looking at them behind, the young master is wondering, why are they making such a fuss? There's something strange about these swords, but... Then the Pung asks him, my lord, which one will you pick? Please pick whatever you like. The young master is looking at the swords and is wondering, what I like. The heavenly demon says to him, tell him you will choose the dark sword. But Huineng says to Heaven Destroyer that, no, sir, please pick the white sword next to you. The Heaven Destroyer is getting confused because of the choices and then smiles and asks the beggar king, beggar Pung, can't I take them both? The beggar king laughs and replies to him that, why not? They are yours anyway. Please take them. The heavenly demon gets angry at this and says, even his greed knows no bounds. And Huineng says, Amitba, even one is too much. Looking at the swords, the young master asks the beggar, why are you making such a fuss over these swords? Beggar Pung, do you know anything about the origin of these swords? Then the beggar king tells him that, yes, of course, as far as I know, the dark sword is the heavenly demonic sword, while the white sword is the Ganjiang sword. Finally, the young master understood that why both of them were making fuss over the swords and says to the heavenly demon, heavenly demonic sword. So the reason you made such a fuss was because it was your sword? The heavenly demon replies to him angrily, so what? Can't I do that? Then looking at the white sword the young masters, says, well, aside from the heavenly demonic sword, this is the Ganjiang sword. The Ganjiang sword is a sword named after a famous swordsmith. Then the beggar king tells him that, the Ganjiang sword, it is said to have been made by a master during the Warring States era, and it is also known as the Emperor's sword. The young master takes the swords with him and leaves the temple. He is walking through the streets and then goes to the group of his friends. The heavenly demonic sword and the Ganjiang swords are also with them. While touching the sword, he's wondering, the Emperor's sword? Then he reaches the genuine inn where all his friends are standing and gossiping. Then the Namgong Hyukrian looks at him, coming towards them and heads towards him and asks, where did you go, young master one? The young master gets confused and replies immediately, I was feeling a little bit stuffy, so I went out for a walk. Hyukrian looks at the two shining swords, tied with his waist, but before he could ask about them, his little sister appears from nowhere and also noticed the swords. She is amazed to see the swords. Namgong Hyukrian is also stunned to see the swords and asks, young master, what are those? And Haimai says with utter surprise, I didn't see any of those swords last night. The Heaven Destroyer touches the back of his head and replies immediately that, I picked them up by accident, they are nothing special. Namgong Haimai is looking at the swords and is wondering, nothing special? They look like treasured swords though. Hyukrian's friend from the behind, shouts and says, Hyukrian, it's almost time for the grand tournament. We should get going. Hearing this, Hyukrian says to the Heaven Destroyer, young master one. Let's go together. Venerable Jigong of Shaolin said he would also attend the grand tournament. Jigong is a depraved monk who stood up for the poor and injustice but ate meat and drank alcohol. They all heads towards the Yunxian, and while walking, Hyukrian says to the young master, anyway, you're really amazing. To think that you have already earned the title of Jade-Faced Divine Dragon. Your fame has already spread all over Kaifeng. A lot of people will probably be watching you during the Orthodox Path's Grand Tournament, young master. The young master gets happy at his praise and then says to him, to think so highly of an insignificant man like me, I'm truly grateful. Namgung Haimai is looking at him with love and affection. Then she says while looking at the young master's face with love that, there is nothing insignificant about you. Young master. Heaven Destroyer is wondering, I keep getting the feeling that something is wrong, and then thanks her, saying, thank you, lady. Then the young master looks at the huge building of the pavilion and is quite amazed to see that and says, anyway, what a magnificent pavilion. While looking at the pavilion, the Heaven Destroyer is wondering, to think I can see it from so far away. Northern Blade Association, the leading force of Jiangbei, both in name and in reality, and the largest of the Orthodox Path's Great Four, which includes the Southern Blade Coalition, the 5-Clan League, and the 9 Orthodox Alliances. 3 executives report directly to the association leader. Under them are the Guard Hall, the Demonic Sword Hall, the Blood Sword Hall, and Heavenly Sword Hall. Just below those 4 are the advisor, the general officer, and the inspector. The Iron Brigade is under the direct command of the general officer. The Mandate Squad, the Killing Shadow Squad, and the Flying Hero Squad are under the direct command of the inspector. In total the number of people exceeds 5,000. With the exception of the Beggars Gang, it's the strongest and largest force. Then the Hyukrian says to the young master, the current Northern Blade Association is very aggressive, but what I'm most worried about is the Demonic Sword Hall and the Blood Sword Hall. The young master asks aggressively, Demonic Sword, Blood Sword? They don't sound like the names an Orthodox faction should use, right? Namgung agree with him and says, that's right. They were originally the most famous assassins of the Dark Path, and were later recruited by the Northern Blade Association. However, their cruel nature didn't change after they joined the Northern Blade Association. Our 5-Clan League and the Southern Blade Coalition have expressed our concerns about them, but the Northern Blade Association just brushed us aside. As a result, our 5-Clan League and the Northern Blade Association have never been on good terms. Then the young master says, former Dark Path members within the Northern Blade Association are suppressing the Dark Path, that's somewhat contradictory. The Heaven Destroyer is still amazed at the pavilion and says, anyway, what a huge pavilion. It must have cost a lot of money. One of his group fellows comes near him and says in his ears that rumor has it that it cost 100,000 gold taels, can you believe that? The young master is quite shocked and asks him, 100,000? Where did they get that kind of money? Hyukrian tells him, the primary source of income for the Northern Blade Association lies in its delivery business. They also run inns, liquor stores, pawn shops, etc. Then tells the young master in low voice that the Dark Path must have become a thorn in their side, since most of these businesses were run by the Dark Path sections. Then while pondering something, the young master says, I see. So, getting rid of the Dark Path and monopolizing those revenues would definitely bring them a tremendous amount of money. They were busy talking when a man who was riding a black horse is coming towards them and loudly says, out of the way. The pitch of the sound is very loud that everyone's ears get hurt by it, and looking at him, Namgung Hyukrian says angrily, damn, that sound was filled with inner QI. Looking at the man on the horse, Haimai asks her elder brother, who on earth is that person? The young master, Heaven Destroyer, moves forward and looking at him with shock, Hyukrian asks, young master? Young master is standing before that man and the man is looking at him with anger. Haimai says to the young master, it's dangerous. And Hyukrian loudly says, young master won. The heavenly demon also gets angry at his act and asks the young master aggressively, hey, are you going to fight a horse? The young master smiles like an evil and says, isn't it annoying? That recklessness, I mean. The horse is also laughing and moving towards him. Meanwhile Hyukrian is worried about the young master and says, you're going to get hit. And Haimai says, young master. The horse, while moving towards the young master, jumps over him and the Heaven Destroyer is looking at him with shock and the rider of the horse is also looking at him. The horse jumps and moves towards the other side and the young master is looking at him, behind, and then says to himself, seriously, can that horse fly? Namgung Haimai laughs loudly and asks the young master, Wasn't you just acting cool for nothing? Hyukrian scolds his younger sister and then the other girl asks him, young master. Are you okay? The heavenly demon smirks and asks the heaven destroyer, how pathetic. Why were you trying to act cool? The young master is extremely angry at his insult and says, that person was unbelievable. That level of horsemanship is rare even in the military. I never thought I would see horsemanship like that in the Jianghu, where people are less familiar with horses. What's more, the rider just now was a girl. All of them are standing, in front of pavilion along with a large number of people. Looking at the long row, the young master, Heaven Destroyer asks, is that line for people going to the grand tournament? And the Hyukrian replies to him, I think so. Hi, my being impatient, says angrily, after inviting here, how long will we have to wait? Isn't this too much? Namgung looks at her younger sister with disappointment and says, Hyami, you must learn to be patient. Then the young master, Heaven Destroyer looks at someone, laughs with a full smile and says to Hyukrian, young master Namgung, I don't think that's necessary. Namgung couldn't understand and asks, pardon? Then the young master shouts and calls, great warrior Wu. Wu looks at him with puzzle face and is wondering, no way, why is that son of a bitch here? Then the Heaven Destroyer says, hurry up and get over here, now. Wu runs towards him quickly and then standing before him, laughs and says, hello, I should have gone to greet you. Meanwhile, in his head, he's thinking, damn it. So he came to the grand tournament with the brats from the Five Clans League. Then the Heaven Destroyer holds him from his shoulder and says frankly, great warrior. Will you help us? Our time is too precious for us to spend it waiting in line. Then after saying this, the young master uses the sound transmission skill and says to Wu, you will help us, right? Great warrior Wu? Right? Wu remembers about the fight with the Heaven Destroyer and then immediately replies to him, showing him a way, of course. We're no strangers, please follow me. Then the young master being formal, says to Wu, great warrior Wu. Sorry for always troubling you. And Wu replies, not at all. Namgung Haimai also gets happy and says, awesome. Wu shows them the way towards the inside of the pavilion and then takes them to one of the rooms and it is the waterfront pavilion. The great warrior Wu says to them, please feel free to stay here. The young master is smiling and two men are looking at him while standing at a little distance from them. One of them asks, is that him? Meanwhile the other says, he's just a kid. Both the Mandate Squad and Wu Hyunchung must be out of their minds. To think that they would be humiliated by a mere brat. A man appears there from somewhere and asks, is that punk the jade-faced divine dragon? Both of them are shocked to hear the voice and looks behind, then one of them asks, association leader. Why are you here? The association leader says while coming towards them, he's got guts. I can't believe he dared to come here after causing such a scene. The Mandate Squad had half of their members beaten up and had to compensate the inn. They even lost the daughter of the Demon King clan leader, Seol Gyungik. The Heaven Destroyer has already caused us a lot of damage. Because of that bastard, the people of Jianghu have begun to look down on our Northern Blade Association. We can't forgive him. Bring him to me quietly. He must pay for bringing shame to our Northern Blade Association. There is a huge stadium and an uncountable number of people are present there. The Heaven Destroyer along with the members of the Five Clan League are also present there and looking at the crowd, the young master is wondering, what a huge crowd. Are they all members of the Orthodox Path? A man is standing in the center of the stadium and then he loudly says, ahem. We are holding this meeting at the Northern Blade Association today to discuss two things. He is So Chianak, Northern Blade Association's advisor, three-eyed heavenly head. Then he continues, saying, the first is to destroy the force that threaten the welfare of Murim. The second is to recruit talents to fill this crucial role. Before the demonic path grows stronger and causes chaos in Murim again. On behalf of the Northern Blade Association, I suggest that we take care of them first. After listening this, everyone in the stadium starts cheering him as a gesture of happiness and agrees with him, but the young master is angry and is thinking, he's suggesting that we destroy the demonic path syndicate? Did they really gather so many people from the Orthodox sects to talk about something like that? Then the Heaven Destroyer asks Hyukrian who's sitting next to him, who is that guy? And he tells him that, he's the advisor of the Northern Blade Association. Then the young master, Heaven Destroyer asks, I see, but isn't he too obvious about their goal? Namgung replies, yes. Still, no one will be able to object without careful consideration. I'm sure they have already gained the support of some of the sections. Their proposal at this point is nothing more than a formal endorsement. If there's one variable, it's how the rest of the major forces in the orthodox path will react. Then So Chianak shouts and loudly says to the audience, all of Murim. Please consider our proposal carefully. And then everyone out there, starts screaming, subjugate the demonic path. Looking at all this, the heavenly demon laughs mockingly and says, what a well-written script. Aren't those people cheering for members of the Northern Blade Association? The young master replies to the heavenly demon, this is ridiculous. Then suddenly, a man appears there. He is bald, has big mustaches and beard and is wearing the monk's dress. He stands before the advisor and then both of them greets each other. The Heaven Destroyer is thinking, the atmosphere changed completely, that person is? Namgong Hyukrian tells him that he is the Shaolin's commandment overseer, and Heaven Destroyer completes his sentence, saying, Venerable Jigong. Then the heavenly demon looks the old monk's face and says, Huineng. So, he was your grand disciple. And Huineng laughs and replies, that seems to be the case. That old man is the Jigong, commandment overseer. Then standing in the center, Jigong says to the audience, I am Jigong form Shaolin. The Heaven Destroyer is thinking, Shaolin's representative, what he says is no different from the will of the 9 orthodox alliances. Then the old Jigong continues, saying, thank you for such a great proposal, representative of the Northern Blade Association. However, this old man disagrees with it. All of the people there along with the young master, Heaven Destroyer and the advisor, So Chianak are shocked to hear this. An old man appears. He said this old thinks differently. I will not deny that the Northern Blade Association's proposal shows their devotion to the well-being of Murim. But everything follows the law of nature. There's no need to provoke the demonic path's members who are busy taking care of themselves. He was standing in the middle of the stage in front of Chianak. He continues talking. He said the Murim is at peace when the demonic path and the orthodox path are equal. Even during the darkest moments of Murim, when the heavenly demon was the ruler, even though those people's generosity was at the minimum, didn't the orthodox path manage to survive thanks to it? The same applied to the members of the demonic path. What's more, we claim to be members of the orthodox path. He covered his face with his hands and said there's no way we could commit such foolishness, right? That's why our members from Shaolin and the 9 Orthodox Alliance. He was look a bit sad. He said are opposed to the proposal of the Northern Blade Association. The crowd silently listening him. Namgong Hyukrian said no way. To think the 9 Orthodox Alliance has officially expressed its opposition. Hyukrian continues talking. He said this is truly unexpected. Huineng said. Amitba, the power of Shaolin is still alive. Young master along with his demons keep watching the old man and Chianak. Heavenly demon said that bastard knows how great I am. Young master said hey, heavenly demon, what's wrong with you? He was looking angry. Heavenly demon was surprised. Why is he saying that? Young master asked him, ruled over Murim, were you a leader or something? Didn't you say you were lonely? Heavenly demon got angry. He said, but the world simply couldn't leave me alone. Just thinking about my numerous followers at that time. Anyway, just say the words, I can introduce you to them at any time. He smiles. And said the members of the heavenly demonic cults. Young master suspiciously looked toward him. And said, heavenly demonic cult, my ass. They're all probably already dead, you idiot. They both got mad at each other. Heavenly demon said, is that so, damn it. Namgong Hyukrian said, I thought only our 5 clans league would oppose it. In that case, only the Southern Blade Coalition is left. Because the 2 clans are opposite toward it. Young master said, I remember you saying that the relationship between the Southern Blade Coalition and the Northern Blade Association isn't too good though. Hyukrian said, yes, that's correct. Young master said, then what will happen if the Southern Blade Coalition opposed the Northern Blade Association's proposal too? He put his finger on his chin. Hyukrian said the leaders of each sect will probably gather for consensus. Since many of the sects have already been won over, it will eventually go according to what the Northern Blade Association wants. He got angry. He said. But the fact that 3 of the 4 major forces of the orthodox path are expressing opposition is likely to have significant implications. The crowd stand-ups. As Namgong Hyukrian said, the 5 Clans League also rejected the Northern Blade Association proposal. An old man appears. He is Peng Hao. Hebei Peng family patriarch destruction divine fist. Now all that's left is the Southern Blade Coalition. If even they oppose it, even if the Northern Blade Association wins the consensus. And ILD man stands with a sword in his hand. It'll simply become a decisive no justification. Furthermore, the position of the Northern Blade Association within the orthodox paths for main forces will surely be shaken. The crowd looked surprised. Therefore, the attention of all the members of the orthodox path gathered at the grand conference was focused on. Someone step in. With a large sword, the Southern Blade Coalition's representative. Young Master said that person looks quite strong. He shout, I oppose the Northern Blade Association's proposal. He was Gu Ryungjin Southern Blade Coalition's Grand Elder Heavenly Seal Illusion Blade. This make Young Master and Hyukrian surprised. Hyukrian said as expected. He was standing in the middle of the stage with Chianak. Chianak whisper, isn't this different from what we had talked about? Gu Ryungjin reply, I know. And he turn around, it seems like he have an announcement to make. He shout, but please don't misunderstand. My objection is just a personal opinion. Young Master and Hyukrian, both of them was shocked. Gu Ryungjin continues talking. He said the opinion of our Southern Blade Coalition as a whole. He turned his hand, San said, is in favor of the Northern Blade Association's proposal. The crowd shout, the Southern Blade Coalition will join the Northern Blade Association for a great cause. Subjugate the demonic path. They continue shouting. Gu Ryungjin turn his head and whisper, is that enough? And he leave the stage. Chianak said, that bastard, he just scared me for no reason. Young Master asked Hyukrian, what's he talking about? He's personally against the proposal. Yet the Southern Blade Coalition as a whole is in favor of it? Hyukrian tell him it doesn't make sense at all. To think the Southern Blade Coalition would agree with the Northern Blade Association's proposal. He was scared for something. The Chianak and Gu Ryungjin was looked happy. Hayami said one is smiling and the other is crying. She was disappointed. When the sun is about to set, the conference is over and everyone is heading toward their homes. Young Master said, Young Master Namgung, is the conference going to end like this? And here I was thinking there would be something special about Muram's conference. Hyukrian said, what do you mean? They were talking while walking. Young Master was whispering, for example, you spar with someone who disagrees with your opinion, why isn't there something like that? Hyukrian laughed and said, not all martial artists in Muram are that ruthless. If that's what you had in mind, you must be extremely disappointed right now. Heavenly Demon said, what a load of nonsense. I agree with you, Heaven Destroyer, that punk doesn't even know the law of the survival of the fittest. Young Master whispers, after hearing you say that, I think I made a mistake in thinking like that. Heavenly Demon smiles and said, even if you say so. You must already be instinctively feeling the absolute rule of Muram. The strong survive, the weak die, the weak are pretty to the strong, survival of the fittest. I will teach you everything and make you my successor. Heavenly Destroyer. He evilly laughed. Huineng said, Sir Heavenly Demon, you must be having blasphemous thoughts again, right? Young Master asked Hyukrian, then where will the orthodox path go from here? Aren't the four great forces' opinion split into two? Hyukrian said that will depend on the results of the vote by each representative of the orthodox path sects tonight. Depending on the result, whether or not the demonic path will be subjugated will be decided. Someone form beside said, who among you is the jade-faced divine dragon? Young Master turned around and said, it's me, may I ask what's going on? The man said, it's those bastard from he Northern Blade Association. The man tell him that the association leader has called for you. Please come with us. Peng Jianghu said, I've never even heard of such a strange request. I don't think it's polite to not even tell us the reason. The man rudely said, since you aren't related to this, please step aside. It's the association leader's order. Peng Jianghu said, this cocky bastard. He was angry. He moved to fight with him, but Young Master stopped him. And said, I'm fine. We all know that the representatives of each sect will soon gather and vote. But this must be a pretty urgent matter, isn't it? Even if it wasn't the case, since you've come rushing like this, I guess I have no other choice but to be dragged away. The warriors standing around the man got angry. They said, what, this bastard, are you mocking us? While the man stands silent. He said, what a rare young man. Are you spouting that nonsense despite knowing we are? Young Master smiles and said, is there anyone who came here without knowing what this palace is? Suddenly someone step in, he said, look like you are in the middle of your conversation. Everyone looks toward him surprisedly. He said, my apologies for intruding, but I am in a rush, so please give me your understanding. Hyukrian said, this person is Venerable Jigong. Venerable Jigong was standing with peace holding and big pearls for prey. He said, I came here in a hurry as I didn't have much time due to the upcoming voting. I heard that my Grand Marshal uncle is here. Who is the person who has inherited the mantras of Venerable Huineng? The man said, what do you mean? Young Master said, Grand Marshal uncle. Venerable Jigong said, yes. According to the rumors, the origins of your martial arts came from that of the 6th Patriarch Huineng, the great warrior. If that is true, you would be our Grand Marshal uncle. Hyukrian said, I see. He touched his chin and said, why didn't I think of that? Young Master has no idea why are they talking about that. Venerable Huineng is the founder of Shaolin. And since young Master Wenyun is no different from his direct disciple, he may be recognized as the person with the highest position in Shaolin. Venerable Jigong flipped the pearl and said, however, if it turns out that you used the 6th Patriarch's name to gain a false reputation, he looks toward young Master and said that would be considered an insult to Shaolin as a whole. He got angry and said, if so, I can't let this matter off lightly. Young Master was shocked because that's an incredible pressure. Heavenly Demon said that punk is quite string. Huineng said to think he would give off such crude energy. Namo Amitba. Young Master laughed and asked him, how can I prove it to you? Venerable Jigong looked toward him. Young Master was showing a great energy flowing from his body. Venerable Jigong was surprised to see that. Young Master said, will you believe me, if I show you my martial arts right here? Everyone was shocked after seeing such a great power. Venerable Jigong laughed. He said, of course I'd live to see that. However, I have other obligations right now, so I only stopped by to give my greetings. He asked him, will it be possible for you to show your martial arts at our main temple later? Young Master greet him and said, of course. Venerable Jigong greet him back and said, then please visit our main temple at any time. The man who came to bring young Master with him was surprised to see that he can't understand anything. Hyukrian said he could become the person with the highest position in Shaolin? Who the hell is this bastard? The sun is about to set. On their way back, Hyukrian said, although the dispute with the Northern Blade Association has been settled thanks to Venerable Jigong, it seems like those bastards are still holding a grudge over the Mandate Squad's incident. Young Master said, even if that's the case, what can they do? Hyukrian said, I know that you're strong. But you have to be careful since this is still the Northern Blade Association's territory, and to be honest, we were the ones to initiate the incident with the Mandate Squad. They stepped forward. Hyukrian said, if anything happens to you, our hearts won't be at peace either. Young Master said, I see. He smiles and said, I shall keep that in mind. Please don't worry too much. In the way back to their lodgings, the Heaven Destroyer was deep in thoughts. The forces that took power and lead history were not necessarily considered righteous. He makes fierce face, however, the measure of value could vary depending on the perspective. Given that context, the Heaven Destroyer did not hate or resent his uncle. Since he lacked both ability and strength, his uncle shoved him aside. In a way, it was just nature taking its course. If his uncle had been tyrannical, his position would have changed. But the uncle he knew wasn't that foolish. He keeps walking and keep thinking. When the Heaven Destroyer found himself able to think calmly about his uncle, he suddenly came to a realization. Stopped at a point. Someone is standing there in front of him and he said, Young Master 1. Jangwen Emperor. Young Master, Heavenly Demonic Scribe. Heaven Destroyer, Jade-Faced Divine Dragon. When young, without being biased toward anything. There's a strange sense of balance among the three identities present in him. On the other hand, the current Murim is out of balance. Huineng said that would be following the providence of the universe that gave you this power. In the world of Murim, perhaps this strange balance is the path he should take. At Waterfront Pavilion, young Master was laying at corridor. He was thinking about something, then he gets bored. He said, when will the voting results come out? Suddenly someone run beside him. He hears the steps. It makes him surprised. He sees someone is jump in the roof of other house. He said, what exquisite body lightning art. This is the center of the Northern Blade Association though. Who the hell is that bastard? Let's chase after him. And he run after him. He saw the person he chases was very fast. He said, judging from how he cleverly moves under the shade, this guy is truly not ordinary. He must at least be stronger than Wu Haiyancheng. The person made jump after jump from one house to another. Young master keep chasing him. At Divine Sword Pavilion, a 9-story pavilion that stands tall in the heart of the Northern Blade Association. Its name is Divine Sword Pavilion. In Murim, there were only 2 people who used the Divine Sword nickname. One is the current 5 Clans League leader, Azure Heaven Divine Sword Nam Gung Wai. And the other is the owner of the Divine Sword Pavilion, the leader of the Northern Blade Association, Super Divine Sword Dugu Hentian. He was the youngest among the 4 great forces leaders of the Orthodox path, and some Murim people called him the Sword King. Of course, like father like son. His father, the former leader of the Northern Blade Association, Hidden Dragon Emperor Dugu Zhen, was also an unrivaled powerhouse. After handing over the association leader's position to Dugu Henshin, Dugu Zhen suddenly disappeared, and rumor has it that the Hidden Dragon Emperor Dugu Zhen is somewhere teaching Dugu Henshin's son, his grandson, the Heavenly Dragon Sword Dugu Wu. Regardless of that, Dugu Henshin had complete control over the Northern Blade Association as its leader. On the other hand, young master was still chasing the person. He went inside that building, Water Fire Abode. Young master said, an abode, that's a pretty cool building. He looks around as he senses something suspicious. He said, what's more? Dozens of people are lying in ambush around the building. Young master was hiding beside a wall. He can sense that the people inside all of them are at the master level. He smiles and said they must be protecting the person inside that building, right? If not, they are imprisoning that person. He makes a fierce face. He smiles again and said, whatever the case, I'm dying of curiosity. I want to know who is inside, but what should I do? He was confused, and said, if I make a mistake and get caught, I might be mistaken for an intruder. He said, Heavenly Demon, what should I do to get inside that building without being detected? Do you perhaps have any amazing skills for that? The Heavenly Demon was also looked confused. He said, why? Aren't you using it already? Young master whispers, are you talking about the Heavenly Demonic Hidden Art? But won't I be caught by experts at that level? Heavenly Demon said, brat, are you looking down my skills? He got angry, and said, just use your inner QI and bring the Heavenly Demonic Hidden Art to the extreme. Yuan and Huineng mumble and said, show off. They both make a fuss face, but Heavenly Demon was burning in anger. Then Jianghu bring the Heavenly Demonic Hidden Art to the extreme. He was crawling on the ground, and said, is this it? After the Heaven Destroyer ventured into Jianghu, he run faster. This was the first time the Heavenly Demonic Hidden Art was brought to the extreme. The Heavenly Demonic Hidden Art, in which he exerted over 300 years of his inner QI, allowed him to pass through any place as long as there was a small gap, and passed by any person without being detected, even if they had both of their eyes open. Even if his opponent was a person with strong inner chi, all he could do was feel the energy. The guard said, why is the wind blowing? All of a sudden, young master enters the room, without any problem. A masked person was standing in front of him. He said, as expected, that punk had business here. He said, Wansa. While a young woman was grabbing a towel. The person kneels down and said, yes, my lady. Young master make a boring face, then suddenly he gives shocking expressions. The young women ask the person about that. How did it go? She covers her body with a towel, as she was coming out from the bathtub. The person said, my lady, I'm sorry for telling you this, while she was drying her hairs with towel. She said, this isn't like you, Wansa. Why are you beating around the bush? Please tell me everything without hiding anything. Wansa take a silent gap. Then she said, he is a playboy who is incredibly obsessed with women and will readily assault and murder them. And there are many people in the nearby villages who resent him. The lady said, as rumored the young Southern Blade Coalition leader is. She smiles, and said, a scumbag. Wansa asked, my lady, what do you plan to do now? The lady looks up toward the roof and said, what else can I do? They may call it a political marriage for the sake of an alliance with the Southern Blade Coalition, but this is no different from being sold by my father. She closed her eyes and smile. Then she said, what's more, for my marriage partner to be such a scumbag. Young master said, father, does that mean that lady is the daughter of the Northern Blade Association leader? So that why he made such a nonsense remark back then. To think the Southern had formed an alliance on the pretext of marriage Blade Coalition and the Northern Blade Association. From the sound of it, her marriage partner is quit the piece of trash. He looked at them and said, for his ambition, the Northern Blade Association leader is willing to marry his daughter off to that kind of trash. What a cold-blooded guy. The lady was looking very sad. Wansa said I would refuse it if I were you, my lady. She looks up. The lady said will you help me if I want to run away from home? She toward Wansa hopefully. Wansa said there's no need to ask my lady. And she hid her hands. She said my job is to protect you, so of course I will always be by your side. The lady smiled, and said thank you Wansa. She turns and said you may leave now I want to be alone today. Wansa bowed her head and said yes, my lady. And she jumps away from the window. The lady was standing in the room. Then she sighs, and sit on the chair. She was upset, then she begins cry. Young master was feeling sad to see her crying. Ichi closed his fist, he said I think I can understand her helplessness. Because I was like that too. While drifting aimlessly in a whirlwind of fate. All I could do was to cry. And trying my best to hang by the thread. Fortunate I was saved by the lucky encounter left behind by my grandfather. He smiles and said shall I try to become one? The thread that is. The lady crying a lot and said if only my older brother was here at times like these. Young master stepped forward and come close to lady while she was crying. She was shocked to see him there, she looked up toward him, and shout who are you? While young master used his energy and techniques, she said I can't move my body. She was looked angry, young master sit on his knees and said young lady I'm not here to hurt you. My name is Jade-Faced Divine Dragon Wenyun. While tracking a night wanderer, I ended up here by chance. She said in her mind Jade-Faced Divine Dragon Wenyun. Wenyun said after hearing about your situation by accident, I wanted to help you young lady. I will now release your pressure points. He moves his fingers and asks her can you promise not to scream. She makes an fierce face. Wenyun said since your pressure points have been locked, you can't express yourself. Then he slapped her to release her body. As she released, she stand up and try to slap him back. She almost approaches his face but Wenyun ignore her move. And step aside. She shocked to see that he's fast. Wenyun asked her should I have taken that slap. The lady said you said your name was Wenyun right? Do you know what you are doing right now? Wenyun said I apologize for being a little extreme. But I was being serious when I said I wanted to help you. And it'd be better if you adjusted your clothes. She immediately covers her body. Wenyun look aside. Then he said fortunately, it doesn't seem like she has any intention of yelling. She tied up her sweet belt, and turned her head toward Wenyun and said so how will you help me? Wenyun said how you ask. I don't know I can just do whatever you want. She said are you going to do whatever I ask then young master? He said yes just say the words. I'll do anything for you. And he smiles. The lady makes fierce face and said who on earth is this guy? To suddenly show up and say he wanted to help a complete stranger like me. Seeing how he safely infiltrated the water fire abode, it doesn't seem like he's an ordinary person. I wonder if I can trust someone like him. She suddenly laughed. Wenyun surprised what's so funny. She said a little while ago I was hanging on threads. It was kind of funny to see myself contemplating when a rope suddenly fell in front of me. Wenyun said threads rope. Seems like he can't understand anything. She said whether it's a robust rope or a flimsy thread let's slowly put it to the test. She closed her arms and said my name is Dugu Shualan. If you can take me out of the Northern Blade Association, and greet him. She said I will consider you my benefactor for life young master. Wenyun said I understand, he moves his hand and said please change into comfortable clothes. Let's leave right now. Dugu Shualan closed her eyes and said no I can't leave now. And ask him please come back at this time tomorrow. Wenyun laughed and said what, at this time tomorrow? Meanwhile at that time, something that the Heaven Destroyer had not expected was happening. At Waterfront Pavilion Namgong Ian looked into Wenyun's room and said young master she enters in the room but he found Noon there she said is he still not back? She remembered that we definitely returned to the pavilion together though. She looks around for him, she said I came by to check every 15 minutes but he nowhere to be seen. Suddenly she has something in her mind she was looked shocked and said don't tell, then she run and call Oraban. Hyukrian shout are you serious, Ian move her head to say yes. Hyukrian was look upset he said damn I should have been more careful. He remembered about conference and the mans, he said those bastards from the Northern Blade Association clearly showed their hostility. To think I'd fail to notice those bastards weren't the type to back off so easily. What a blunder. Peng Jianghu said, Hyukrian, there's something that you can think of. Hyukrian said something bad may have happened to young Master Yun. He angrily said we have to inform the 5 Clans League of this news now. The sudden disappearance of Wen Yun, the jade-faced divine dragon. Namgung Hyukrian immediately reported this to the master of the 5 Clans League. And the news was also delivered to the Orthodox Alliance. Venerable Jigong closed his eye and said, I thought that would happen. To think they would act so openly on my watch. If this is true that the young man inherited Grandmaster Huining's mantra. Most people within the Northern Blade Association will be able to handle this. But still, the fact that he has gone missing means that the Northern Blade Association leader may have been directly involved in this matter. His messenger asked, what should we do? Venerable Jigong said, let's just keep our eyes on the situation for now. Peng Hao said. What, something like that happened? Hyukrian said, yes, we had a small dispute with the Northern Blade Association's mandate squad leader back at the INN. Peng Hao said, then this young master called Wen Yun may have fallen victim to the Northern Blade Association conspiracy. Someone from there behind said, what? They were all looked surprised. They looked back, there was Gu Ryungjin. He said, what are you talking about? Who fell victim? He was so angry. He went in and said, tell me everything in details. They were surprised to see Grand Gang leader there. Someone gave this news to a man, he said, what, the Grand Gang leader is here. He was Northern Blade Association leader, Supreme Divine Sword, his name was Dugu Hentian. He said that old man has never shown his face since my father went into retirement, so why did he suddenly come here? He run to see him, he pushes the guard and said out of the way. The other association members were shocked to see him. One of them said, even if the Grand Gang leader, why is the association leader is such a rush? Chianak said, you don't really know anything. He tells him the Grand Gang leader and the previous association leader, the Hidden Dragon Emperor, are best friends who share a special relationship. Even in terms of position he is like a Grand Senior of Murim. So, it's only naturally for our association leader to rush out barefooted. At Divine Sword Pavilion Virtuous Hall. Everyone was standing toward the association leader Dugu Hentian. Dugu Hentian asked Grand Leader, please calm down. And tell him that we're currently searching the entire Northern Blade Association. Grand Gang leader was so angry that he said, is the Northern Blade Association as wide as Kaifeng or Huguang province? He points him with his finger and said, how is it possible that 15,000 warriors can't find a person? I'm telling you, if something were to happen to that person, even if I have mobilized all of our 100,000 beggars. He gave him a thriller look. And said, blade of grass, not a single or tile will be left behind in the Northern Blade Association. Dugu Hentian was scared. He said, that person, who is the world, is that bastard, for the Grand Gang leader to refer to him as that person. And Venerable Jigong, he was in deep thoughts, he thinks he probably knows that I called him. Even though the circumstances definitely raise suspicious. Why isn't he saying anything? There is rumor that bastard inherited Grandmaster Huining's mantras. If it's truth, shouldn't Shaolin make a fuss about it by now? Shaolin was directly opposed to the conquest of the demonic path. Or, if he wants to use this incident as an excuse to not have to participate in the conquest of the demonic path. Venerable Jigong, I can't let my guard down around someone like him. An old man said seriously. He was also curious that who the hell is that Wen Yun to cause so much trouble. Peng Hao said, this bastard Dugu Hentian has always been in his high horse, but look at him now. Grand Gang leader said, this Peng bastard, what are you laughing at? Did something great happen? Did your father teach you to be like this? He pointed his finger toward Peng Hao. Peng Hao said, my apologies, elder. At Waterfront Pavilion, Wen Yun was heading toward there. He thinks about Dugu Xuelan and her words, please come back at this time tomorrow. He calmly walks and repeats, come back to tomorrow. Seriously, I'm speechless. She won't set me up right. Heavenly Demon said, hey, Heavenly Destroyer, is you seriously going to do as she says? Wen Yun said, why am I not? Heavenly Demon said, you couldn't it be that you've fallen for her? Don't you find it strange that she entrusted her problem to you, whom she has just met for the first time? Wen Yun said, well, Heavenly Demon, you may not understand her. But I thought that you would at least understand me. What's more, I don't want to think that those eyes lied to me. Heavenly Demon said, you fool, she may treat you as an enemy in the future. He got angry. He shouts love is nothing, it's all pointless. Wen Yun said it's none of your business, heavenly demon. Both Wen Yun and Huineng make fuss face, while heavenly demon was burning in anger. He said this is why young bastards aren't trustworthy. There is no time to waste to make my name known again in Murim though. Wen Yun saw the warriors running in front of him. They were search for someone, he surprised and said, still why are those people moving around and making such a fuss? He stopped a warrior and said, excuse me, did something happen? The warrior said about that a first-level emergency order was issued within the association because of one person. They say he suddenly went missing, we need to find him, but seriously we don't even know his face. Wen Yun said it must have been hard and do you know his name? Warrior said about that jade-faced dragon, I'd something like that. Wen Yun was surprised to know that it's him. They were looking for him. At the waterfront pavilion, Dugu Hentian asked to Chianak advisor there aren't any updates. Chianak greet him and said unfortunately yes. Peng Hao said, do you truly think it's unfortunate? Chianak shouted at him, he said, look Elder Peng, aren't your words too harsh? Peng Hao said, what do you mean, did I say anything wrong? He shouts at Chianak and said, from what I heard, the Northern Blade Association suffered utter humiliation by the jade-faced divine dragon. Considering how he suddenly disappeared in the middle of the Northern Blade Association's courtyard, isn't it obvious what happened? Chianak moved toward him and said, are you done talking? Great gang leader shout with anger, can't you shut up? Is it time to be fighting? Association leader, the jade-faced divine dragon great warrior Nyan is coming. Dugu Hentian looks bit upset to hear that. Great gang leader said, what, where is he? Venerable Jigong was pleased to hear that Wen Yun enter in the hall and said, I mean, what in the world is going on here? He looked confused. Great gang leader shouts, my lord. He bows in front of him and said, you are safe. Everyone looked surprised to see that the great gang leader just called that brat my lord. Wen Yun smiles and asks him to stand up. Great gang leader said yes and stand up. Dugu Hentian think Grand Gang leader Peng Chanho is one of the greatest elder LS of this Murim, both in name and reality. And that very Grand Gang leader just got on his knees. What on the earth is that man's identity? Meanwhile, Peng Chanho wants to hold Wen Yun, but Wen Yun refused to do so. Then he whispered in Peng's ear, beggar Peng, everyone is suspicious right now, please do something. Peng Chanho said, right master, Wen, do you know how surprised I was when you suddenly disappeared? So much that my tongue slipped calling you my lord. Then he laughed. Wen Yun also acting to laugh, he put his hand on the back of his head and said, that can happen, the Grand Gang leader, you have always treated me like your own grandson. Peng Chanho said, that's right, I was so worried about you. They both laughed. And everyone silently watching them talking. They have no idea what going on. They said tongue slipped. Wei Yin bowed his head in front of Peng and said, my foolishness has caused the honorable members of the Murim Alliance to worry. For that I sincerely apologize. In particular, no words can express how ashamed I am, association leader. Dugu Hentian said, no, it wasn't that big of a deal. So what do you think if we put this commotion aside and move to a different location? Everyone was sitting on the dining table, the food was served. Dugu Hentian grabbed the teapot and asked Wen Yun, please take a glass from me, great warrior one. Wen Yun said yes. Peng Chanho was drinking while saying awesome. But Dugu Hentian was thinking about the word my lord. He said, what, his tongue slipped, this old fox, who is going to believe that? He make a fierce face. He looked toward Wen Yun and think, this bastard, what is his real identity? Where did this guy suddenly come from? He looked down and said, jade-faced Wen Yun, I'm going to thoroughly investigate you. The banquet started with Dugu Hentian as its host. Was held in a friendly manner. Yet there were two people who were uncomfortable, as if they were sitting on cushions made of thorns. Hucrian said, why am I here? He's so nervous because nobody talked about him. Wen Yun laughed and think, damn it, why did they give me the seat of honor? Thanks to the words my lord of the beggar king Peng Chanho, Chanho looked toward him and asked him, do you need anything? Wen Yun said, I mean, can you do something about this? Grand Gang leader of the beggar gang, one of the biggest forces of Jianghu. And these two were invited to a banquet hall. Wen Yun laughed and said, it's so uncomfortable. Seriously, Hucrian said, what am I doing here? Together with the master-level fighters of each sect. Naturally, all attention was focused on the heavenly destroyer, but they calmly fended their gazes off. Wen Yun smiles and think, at this rate there's going to be a hole in my face. Dugu Hentian was so curious, what kind of background does Wen Yun have? He grabs a glass of wine and stare at him. He keeps thinking for the beggar king Peng Chanho to call him my lord. Peng Hao looked toward Hyukrian and asked him, you said that you saw young Master Wenyun's martial arts skills in person, right? Hyukrian said yes. Wenyun shouted in his mind, no, don't make it more complicated than it already is. He was afraid. Venerable Jigong looked at him. Hyukrian said it was a truly amazing experience. I would have never imagined that Grand Master Huineng's lost martial arts that were only heard legends would be performed right before my eyes. Peng Hao said, is that so? That's incredible. Hyukrian and Peng Hao laughed. Wenyun also acting to laughed and said, what a headache. Then he said, I just happened to have such a lucky encounter. Moreover, it hasn't been verified by Venerable Jigong yet. Peng Chanho said, but as long as it is verified, won't you become someone who holds the highest status in Shaolin? Wenyun said, no, I don't plan on receiving such treatment. Venerable Jigong said, what the Grand Gang leader said is correct. Sixth ancestor Huineng is our temple's grand martial uncle. Is there any sect that would not attach importance to status? If verified, you will receive the same treatment as I do in Shaolin. Dugu Hentian said the same treatment as Venerable Jigong. Gu Ryungjin said that means. They both was surprised. After the story that the Heaven Destroyer may receive the same treatment as Venerable Jigong of Shaolin, Peng Hao said, I guess it's not much different from having the highest position in the orthodox sects of Murim. This is also added to the my lord remark from the beggar king Peng Chanho. People's interest in the Heaven Destroyer grew even more. Wenyun said, please don't do like that. I'm just a newbie who just came into Jianghu. Dugu Hentian said in his mind, where did this guy suddenly come from? There were rumors that he used Shaolin's martial arts, but who would have thought what he used belonged to Grand Master Huineng's mantra. Shaolin is the spiritual pillar of Murim's orthodox path. Their connections in Murim are beyond imagination. And the beggar gang led by the Grand Gang leader is said to possess the greatest forces and the best intelligence network in Murim. I absolutely need their help to conquer Murim. He was glad that he didn't mess with Wenyun. It would have caused him the worst headache. He thinks I need to persuade that guy in order to maintain a good relationship with the Grand Gang leader. Even if he doesn't want this, but still, he has to. He wishes I had another daughter. Times like these. With each person engrossed in their own thoughts, the banquet continued. The name, Wenyun, was clearly imprinted on the master-level figures of each sect. And the result of the voting, which was expected to be difficult to determine, ended with 70% in favor of the Northern Blade Association's proposal. As there was no justification for opposition, all power given to the Northern Blade Association for the time in thousands of years' history. It was the moment when the orthodox sects declared a demonic path subjugation, and at that moment, the most powerful group in the history of Murim, the Righteous Path Murim Alliance, was born. In the morning at the jungle where bamboo's trees were standing along with sky, Heavenly Demon said, what, you want me to teach you how to use a sword? Wenyun said, yeah, as there's a rebellion I'm involved tonight. And now that I have my own swords, this would be a good time to start learning how to use them. Heavenly Demon smiles and said, when it comes to swords, I'm the best. I will teach you. Float the sword in the air. Wenyun float the sword in the air with demonic power. And said like this. Heavenly Demon said, now do your best and send it as far as possible. Wenyun was confused and repeat his words, as far as possible. Now he understands what that means and what Heavenly Demon trying to do. He move his finger. And hit his hand on the ground. The sword went away in speed. Heavenly Demon shout brings it back. Wenyun shout why all of a sudden he moves his hand straight to bring the sword back. The sword was straight coming back towards him. Then it makes a round and sword got stuck in the bamboo's tree. Wenyun said, damn, I got stuck. Heavenly Demon said, the heavenly sword can even pierce through the Eternium iron. But you can't even use it to cut down one bamboo right now. As the heavenly demonic sword flew over a distance of 31 meters, your inner chi cut off. That's why it ended up in that pathetic state. That is the limit of your inner chi. At that level what you just did was nothing but swordsmanship. Wenyun said, what the hell is he saying? Isn't this swordsmanship too? Heavenly Demon said, what do you think is the highest realm of the sword? Wenyun said, he's taking his teacher's role pretty seriously. Well, I don't really know much about it. Demon said, highest realm. In other words, the realm in which your true chi completely unite with the energy of the universe through the sword. When you achieve that realm, you will be able to freely use the true chi controlling swords. Wen Yun said, the true chi controlling sword. Why is it so complicated? Heavenly Demon said, there's nothing complicated about it. He smiles and said, for now let's try to reach the intangible sword realm first. The bamboo tree leaves were flying in the air. Because Wen Yun was practicing swordsmanship, hardly he throws the sword here and there with his fingers sign. He said, great, I managed to use the enhanced sword chi. Heavenly Demon said, not yet. This make Wen Yun surprised. Heavenly Demon tells him that your current, enhanced sword chi, cannot break a powerful, sword veil. Expand your enhanced sword chi and make it into sword gust. Wen Yun begin to think, expand my enhanced sword chi. He looks toward his hand, make it tight and said like this. Then he looked back toward the sword. He creates a sword bounder. He also surprised to see that. Heavenly Demon said, to think he would be able to perform sword gust at once. This bastard is growing at an unbelievable rate. He laughed and said, interesting. In the afternoon the bamboo's tree was hiding toward the sky. Wen Yun, laying on the ground, put his both swords aside as he was tired after practicing hard. He asks Heavenly Demon, which realm did you reach? Heavenly Demon was confused. He said, my realm was being the intangible sword. Wen Yun sit and said, beyond the intangible sword? The way you said it, it sounds like there are several realms beyond that. Heavenly Demon said, of course. He tells him that a realm that goes beyond the intangible sword and turns a part of nature into your sword chi. Nature sword. Wen Yun confusedly said, nature sword. Are you kidding? What does that mean? Heavenly Demon said, I'm not joking. Imagine turning rainwater into a rain of sword chi. An army of hundreds of thousands of people would be annihilated in an instant. What if you can turn the wind into sword chi? Can you stop the lightning strike with a sword? Wen Yun asked him, are you saying it's possible to do something like that? While sitting on the ground. Heavenly Demon said, of course. And Wen Yun said, and with great curiosity. Heavenly Demon said, never mind, I can't explain the next realm either, I'll just think about it. Wen Yun being to count and said, there is a realm beyond the intangible sword and nature sword? Is that even possible? Heavenly Demon said, universe sword. That realm definitely exists. Still, it's not something you should be worrying about right now. When you become strong enough to attract those guys' attention. Wen Yun looked toward him and said, those guys? Are they martial artists? Heavenly Demon said, no. They are not part of Murim. Dugu Hentian said to Wen Yun, please help yourself. I can guarantee the cooking skills of our divine sword pavilion. They are even more talented than the Imperial Palace chefs. Wen Yun got angry hearing this, but from the outside he smiled and said, is that so? And thought, I'm getting angry for no reason, and said again seriously, at any rate, are you really planning to conquer the demonic path syndicate? He replied, no matter what, we must unite as one. At Divine Sword Pavilion, Wen Yun was descending the stairs and thought, to think the Northern Blade Association leader would invite only me to have lunch with him. I knew he would be more interested in me after what Beggar Peng and Venerable Jigong said. Who would have thought he would take the initiative like this? Well, should I take this chance and feel him out? Dugu Hentian said to Wen Yun, you have come, great warrior. I have specifically made some preparations just for the two of us today. Great warrior Wen, I hope you won't find it inconvenient. Wen greeted him and replied, not at all, thank you for inviting me here. At any rate, what a magnificent place you have, to the point I almost want to join you here. Dugu Hentian thought, if you can't get rid of it, embrace it, that's my motto. He laughed and said to Wen, it's great warrior really wants to stay at Tower Northern Blade Association. I can even build a new Divine Sword Pavilion for you. Wen laughed and said, well, there's no need to go so far as building a new one, you can just move out. Dugu looked at Wen angrily, but he changes his face expressions and started laughing and said, should I do that? And thought, this cunning bastard, he wants me to give him the Divine Sword Pavilion. Wen laughed and replied, I am joking, association leader, and thought, hateful bastard, he's great at saying things he doesn't mean. Dugu said, after coming all the way here, you must be starving. Let's have a meal while we talk. Female servants come with food and served on the table. Wen looked the dishes furiously and thought, incredible, I have never seen dishes like this before. I used to receive 3 meals a day when I was the emperor. Considering there are this many dishes whose ingredients I cannot even recognize, it's obvious what kind of extravagant life he is living. Dugu said to him, please help yourself, I can guarantee the cooking skill of our Divine Sword Pavilion. they are even more talented than the Imperial Palace chef. One laughed and said, is that so? But he got angry hearing this and thought, I'm getting angry for no reason, and said seriously, at any rate, are you really planning to conquer the demonic path syndicate? Dugu replied, not only is it a matter that has already been decided in the voting among these sects of the orthodox path, it's also what all of the people in Jianghu want, so we have no other choice but to follow it. One thought angrily, sickening bastard, didn't you make it all up? And said, so, how do you plan to conquer it? Do you have any particular plan in mind? Dugu replied, that will only come after the Murim alliance is formed. I think it will take at least 1 year. Those scumbags' base is in Hangzhou, but they have secret branches scattered throughout the place, so it may take longer to completely get rid of them. Wen said with smile, then, will the Murim alliance be disbanded after the demonic path syndicate is wiped out? Dugu thought, this punk, is he trying to feel me out? Dugu replied him, well, we can decide when the time comes. However, I honestly hope that it will remain as an established organization that would be the best for the peace of Murim, don't you think so? One thought, it's probably not for the sake of the peace of Murim but for your own gains, you bastard, and said, I see, are there any other variables? Dugu replied rudely, it's not enough to be called variables, but there are talks about how a member of the heavenly demonic cult has shown up. One got shocked and said, a member of the heavenly demonic cult? Dugu replied, to be precise, he called himself the heavenly demon scribe. It is said that his martial arts skills are similar to those of the old heavenly demonic cult. One laughed and said, is that so? And thought, that's me, you jerk. Dugu said again, since there are many strange rumors regarding the existence of the heavenly demonic cult, there's no way to verify the authenticity of those rumors at Do. One asked heavenly demon, why? Did you think of something? He replied, not really. Dugu asked him, in that sense, would you like to work together for the sake of Murim justice? Our soon-to-be-established museum alliance is in desperate need of talents like you, great warrior. If you want, I promise to give you the position which is below one person, above 10,000 people in the Murim alliance. One thought, he's already thought of himself as the Murim alliance leader, he wants to make me his pawn, and said, I am so flattered that you think so highly of a lacking person like me, but please give me some time to consider it. So I think. Dugu thought, even this doesn't make him fall for it? In that case, and said, I understand then, yes, now that I have a high regard for you, create warrior. He called someone. One looked him confusingly. A girl come and greet the Dugu and said, you've called for me, father. He replied, yes, come in. One looked him surprisingly and thought, what's he trying to do this time? Dugu said to girl, what are you doing? Aren't you going to greet out guest? Girl looked at him and thought, that young master was the one I saw last night. She greeted him and said, my name is Dugu Shualan. One thought that this is his plan and stand from the chair and greet the girl and said, I am the jade-faced divine dragon, Wen Yun. It's my honor to meet such a beautiful lady like you. Dugu looked at him confusingly and then smiled. He laughed and said his daughter to sit on the chair next to him. He asked Wen, great warrior Wen, what do you think? I am not saying this because she's my child, but she definitely is not lacking in any aspect. Wen thought, scary bastard, how many people is he trying to marry off his daughter to? Wen replied him, I have seen a fair share of beauties in Jianghu, but this is my first time seeing someone as beautiful as Lady Shualan. Shualan looked at him and thought, lady, tonight. You haven't forgotten it, right? Dugu said to Wen, since this child is 19, I have to get her married. But how can I send her to just anyone? However, it'd be a different story when it comes to great warrior Yun. Wen replied with smile, you flatter me, however, since you have shown me this much construction, if you want, I will do everything in my power to support you, association leader. Dugu looked at him sharply and thought, there is it, you're also a man. Wen stand up and asked for leave and said his companions were waiting. Dugu replied, my apologies for keeping you this long. Wen greeted Shualan and said, I will see you again, lady. And went out from the room. Shualan asked Dugu, father that person, he cut his talk and said, don't worry about him. Just behave and get ready to get married, your marriage will be held next spring. She asked again, with whom am I getting married? He replied, who else? Did not I say your partner would be the young Southern Blade Coalition lead? She asked again worriedly, by father that person, he cut his talk and said angrily, shut up, you just have to do what I tell you, get out now. In the festival, people walking and talking happily. One of them asked to other, is the festival going to last all night? The other replied, yes, they said the banquet will continue until tomorrow as the decision to subjugate the demonic path has been reached. When comes to the water fire abode and said, now then, shall I start messing with him? A girl covering his whole body and face bent in front of the Shualan and said, my lady, are you ready? She replied, yes. The veiled lady said again, I know you've thought it through, but I wonder if we can trust that person named Wen Yun. Once you disappear, an inescapable net will be extended all over Kaifeng. She replied, I know what you are worried about, Wansa. However, I believe everything will be fine. Wen was present there but invisible for them. He heard their talk and thought, would you look at this? She already told that night wanderer everything. Heavenly Demon said to him, look at that, you better get out of here before it gets worse. He replied him, I don't want to. As a man, I have promised to help her. Shualan said worriedly, but why isn't he coming? Veiled girl replied, maybe he got scared after all that bragging. Wen appeared in front of them and asked to that girl angrily, do you think I am you? She pushed Shualan behind her, looked at him angrily and thought, impossible, he was able to get this close without me noticing. Wen looked at him eyes and wants to recognize them, he shouted, hold on, are not you the one galloping down the street on that dark horse? She also recognized him and said, you are that crazy guy. He replied angrily, who are you calling crazy? What you did with the horse was even crazier. She takes off his mask and said, wait a moment, I cannot leave my lady to a bastard who lacks common sense like you. He said, what are you saying? Also, why are you taking off your mask? And went near the Shualan. She thought angrily, he ignored me. He asked the Shualan, lady, are you ready? She replied, yes, please wait a minute. And picked his bundle. He asked her, lady, what's with that bundle? She replied, pardon? These are clothes and some jewelry, among other things. He took bundle from her and said, just leave everything here and follow me. She replied yes. Wansa also start following him. He stopped and asked her, could it be that you're following me as well? She replied, of course, I am going. He asked Shualan, is she going to come with us, lady? She replied, since the Wansa is the closest person to me, is it not possible? He replied rudely, well, it is not possible, but, he called her and said, black clothes, I won't be taking care of you, so you better not cause me any inconvenience. She replied, I can take care of myself, you can just take responsibility for what you promised. She thought, seeing how he was able to get behind me without being discovered, he is undoubtedly a martial artist, however, he is way too annoying, and said to him, look, Mr. Expert, you are not trying to get out of here without any sort of plan, right? He replied confusingly. Plan? What plan? I am just going to leave. The Shualan and Wansa were walking in the corridor. Wansa asked her, are you all right? She replied, why do you ask? Wansa said, I just wonder if you are following that man too readily. She smiled and said, did it look that way to you? If my father could not get rid of someone, he would try his best to win that person over and maximize his benefits. He is someone who will do anything to achieve his goal. I have got his blood in my veins too. As long as I can get out of the Northern Blade Association, I am willing to accept help from anyone. Wansa replied, I understand, my lady, and thought your confidence is what makes me respect you, my lady. They come outside and were walking in the bridge. Suddenly two mans comes in front of them. One of them asked them, where are you going this late at night? Wansa sir replied, I have somewhere to go, get out of my way. It's the young lady's order. He said again, you know that this place is restricted after midnight, don't you? She replied, does that mean you are going to keep standing in my way? Did you not hear me say this is the young lady's order? He said, I am just telling you the rules, you may pass. Wansa looked behind her and said, let's go Jiam Yang, and they both walked outside. Men's looked them from behind. One of them said, by the way, has Jiam Yang always been that voluptuous? The other one replied, stop talking nonsense and get ready to change shifts. Wansa heard the one voice. He said them to keep going straight and looked around. She thought, where is he sending these sound transmission from? She again his voice, don't waste time looking for me, go behind the big tree in front. They went near the tree and Wansa looked around and said, we're here, where are you? He appeared in front of them and he took Shualan in his hand in bridal style. He said to Wansa, do your best and follow me, and jump very high. Wansa looked at him shockingly and thought, what's with his qinggong? It's not time to be like this, let's quickly follow them. When jumping continuously while holding Xuelan with smile. Xuelan looked his smile and thought, what a nice smile. When asked her, my lady, is there somewhere you want to go? She replied, we should go to the headquarters of the beggar gang. He said confusingly, the beggar gang HQ? Are you talking about Guandi Temple? She replied, I have a connection with the Grand Gang leader. He said, alright, I understand. He stopped in front of the Guandi Temple. She put her hand in her face with fear. He asked her, are you alright? Wansa also come near to them while running. Wen shouted angrily, why are you so late? She was full of sweat and taking deep breaths and said, my bad, and thought, I ran with all my might, you know, you bastard. Wen said to them, now listen carefully, I am going back to the banquet hall. Xuelan said confusingly, banquet hall? You are here while banquet is taking place? How audacious. He smiled and replied, there's no way he could imagine that I brought you here in that short time, that's because right now would be the time when it raises the least amount of suspicion. Just say that the jade-faced divine dragon brought you here, and the beggar gang will accept you. Fortunately, since you also have a connection with the Grand Gang leader. Anyway, do your best to hide, I will come back when the time is right, and he jumped. Xuelan and Wansa saw him. Xuelan said, he's fast while going to banquet hall, Wen said to himself, I am looking forward to seeing how shocked the alliance leader would be after this. At banquet peoples were enjoying. Namgung and Jianghu were standing with the support of each other. Namgung laughed and said, seriously, great warrior one, why are you only here now? Did not we decide to drink until dawn? You have not forgotten, right? He looked at them and thought, they are completely drunk, and said, how could I forget? Come on, it begins now. He started drinking with them. Namgung Ian comes and poured him some drink, they all laughed loudly. One thought, I should show myself laughing and talking to as many people as possible, since they will be the witness to prove my innocence. You said, you know, great warrior one, not only are you good at drinking but you are also an incredible fighter, what's it that you cannot do? Honestly, because of your lies, I hated you at first. Great warrior one can drink well and fight well, so I like you, great warrior. I think I'm really lucky, for having met someone as incredible as you. One looked at him and thought, he's totally drunk, and replied, that's what I want to say, meeting you is the best thing that happened to me when I first arrived in Murim. Jianghu hugged him happily and said, create warrior one. Namgung asked one, great warrior one, are you planning to leave tomorrow? If you don't have any plans, come and visit the 5 Clients League with us. He replied, I have somewhere I need to go after I leave this place. It's a pity, but I will definitely go there later. Namgung said, then let us taste a glass of farewell, Wen said, to our friendship, and Jianghu said, to great warrior Van. They raised their glasses and said, cheers. Next day, Dugu asked angrily, what? Lan has disappeared, so Chianak replied, from our investigation, the possibility that Lady Xuelan was kidnapped by outsider is almost non-existent. Dugu shouted angrily, what nonsense, does that mean Land left on her own accord? He replied, the Water Marsh Hall is in charge of protecting the water fire aboard, we believe it's impossible to kidnap the young lady without leaving any traces under their watch. Doug asked, what's more? He replied, according to the guards, a little after midnight yesterday a person called Wansa and a maid named Gang left the water fire about together, but as we went to interrogate the maid, will you manage to confirm that not only was she not together with Wansa but she never went outside to begin with? Dugu asked angrily, does that mean someone used the disguising technique? He replied, no sir, it's the transfiguration art. Dugu looked at him shockingly. Chianak said, the young lady has never learned any sort of martial arts, that means our third party or Wansa must have used the transfiguration art on the young lady. Dugu said, since Wansa is not capable of doing that, does this mean that a third party was involved in this incident? Chianak said, if he's an expert at that level, he should at least be a representative of the 3 major clans or leader of major factions. What not they drinking at that time last night? Dugu said, investigate it carefully and report back to me, before there's any further evidence, treat everyone as a suspect. No matter what you have to do, find the culprit at all cost. In the dark corridor, which was lit by lamps, a man was walking. He was full covered, even his face was covered with hood. He said, open the gate, it's me. Gate opened and a strong man was standing in front of him. Hoodie man said, is he still alive? He replied, yes sir, although he's barely breathing, no matter how much I torture him, he won't open his mouth. He asked again, what about his grandson? He replied that bastard is quite tenacious as well. Hoodie Man said angrily, looks like I have to see him myself, take me to him. They entered in a room, there was blood on ground and a man was handcuffed to the wall. Hoodie Man stand in front of him and said, I'll have to admit, you and your grandson are truly persistent. Last night, your granddaughter ran away. Did your granddaughter still have another helper? There's no way that the wench called Wansa would have that kind of ability. The bound man said with smile, crazy bastard, get lost. Hoodie Man said, look, Hidden Dragon Emperor, your son is already dead, and you grandson's state isn't much different. That means there is only one beach left in your family, don't you think you should at least save her? He replied, that's her fate, whether you kill her or spare her, do whatever you want. Hoodie Man said, what a cold-hearted person you are, Dugujan. I wonder if that bitch knows how her grandfather feels about her. Shall I tell you one thing? Under the pretext of demonic path subjugation, the Northern Blade Association will soon submerge Jianghu in a sea of blood. The Northern Blade Association will be heavily criticized for its notorious act. Dugujan said angrily, you bastard, will you be alright with that? He replied with smile, will I be alright? Are you talking about the Absolute Sword scripture? I have come to the conclusion that you guys never had the Absolute Sword sculpture in your possession in the first place. It's only something you made up in order to ensure your survival. After you and your grandson die, this place will be buried. And there will be no trace of it even existing this. Dugujan said angrily, you sickening bastard. Hoodie Man said, sickening? Aren't you being too harsh? Even if he already died. He removed his hood and it was Dugu. Dugu asked with evil smile, isn't this as your son's face? Chianak and a man was standing in front of the door and many peoples were standing in front of them. One of them shouted angrily, wait, what kind of tyrannical act is this? Why are you stopping us? Is it okay for the Northern Blade Association to be like this? Chianak said, we are conducting a brief investigation, even though you may feel uncomfortable, please cooperate with us for a while. The man said again, I mean, shouldn't you at least tell us why you are doing this? Man standing near him also said, has the Northern Blade Association always been such a crooked group, even though people opposed strongly due to the unclear explanation? Do you know Russian Blade Association conducting through investigation without paying attention to what the people said? Among a considerable amount of experts, they started to select and investigate anyone who was unaccounted for between 11 p.m. to 3 a.m. Chianak was writing and investigate the people according the list. As the investigation progresses, it was finally the Heaven Destroyer's turn. Chianak asked him, where were you, and what did you do between that time, young master? He asked him instead of answering, must I really say it? Chianak smirked and said, please do, if it isn't something shameful, then there's no need to hide it, right? Or is there any reason why you can't say it? He replied, I already feel offended enough with the way this investigation is carried out, yet you are even accusing me as if I have committed some kind of crime. He laughed and said again seriously, if you want to hear my story, then call the alliance leader here, you bastard. Chianak shouted angrily, what? This cocky son of a bitch. He replied with smile, it's you who is being cocky, not me. So, do you want to have a go at it? Chianak hold his sword angrily. Peoples were watching them. Heavenly demon said him, why don't you run away? Are you going to fight like this? He replied, just wait because I have a plan. Because, I think they're going to make a mistake first. A man looked at him angrily and said, hey you, how dare you mention the association leader with your mouth? Is he your friend? Wen Yun closed his one eye and rubbed his neck and said, it's you again, just like when you told me to accompany you the last time. Who owners are you to say something like that to me? He replied, my name is Yun Samu, 100 Men Commander of the Northern Blade Association Heavenly Sword Hall. Now, answer the question. He was Yun Samu Heavenly Sword Hall Centurion Light Restraining Sword, 100-Man Commander. Wen folded his hand on around his head and said, seriously, these bastards can't really understand what I'm saying? I already told you if you want to hear my answer, bring him here, the Northern Blade Association. Yun said angrily, you cocky prick, don't listen, and hold his sword and attacked him. He stopped the sword near his face and said, this is the sword of Heavenly Sword Hall? How slow. Yun attacked him again angrily. Wen sidestepped his shot and stopped his hand by his arm. Heavenly Demon asked, why don't you use your sword? He replied, that'd be a waste against these punks. He evilly smiled and kicked Yun. Yun fell away and Wen stopped himself from falling by pressing his hand in the ground. He again stood up and ran towards Yun for attack and said, 18 palms of compassionate bodhisattva unbreakable moon sculpting and hit Yun by this technique. Wen stand straight with one hand up. Yun cannot hold his attack and fell down again on ground. Wen looked his hand and thought, the string persist and the weak persist, only an overwhelming strength reigns supreme. Everyone looked him shockingly, their mouths opened with shock as they didn't expected this. Wen folded his hands back and looked at Yun. He was kneeling in the ground and clinging to his head and was coughing. Wen asked him, light restraining sword or what not, is this all you amount to? Yun looked at him and said angrily, bastard, I'm going to kill you. Wen looked at him confusingly. Yun trying to stand up but suddenly someone came and stand on him. Wen looked at the man confusingly. Dugu lifted his feet covered with blood from Yun. Wen looked him shockingly. Dugu laughed and said, seriously, my subordinates are still lacking, so they weren't able to recognize you, great warrior. Please find it in your gracious heart and forgive them. Wen was jumping and flying in the sky. His face expressions looked very serious and he was thinking about the incident that happened a while ago. He thought, with the appearance of the Northern Blade Association leader, the Heaven Destroyer got the chance to leave. Thanks to that, he managed to avoid a sticky situation. However, the Heaven Destroyer felt disgusted by Dugu Hentian cruelty, which was contrary to his attitude towards him. He stood in the ground with full force. There became a hole where he stand. He looked angry. Heavenly Demon said to him, is something wrong, Heaven Destroyer? You look like in a bad mood from earlier. Wen said, that bastard Dugu Hentian, the more I think about him, the angrier I get. Not only was he using his own daughter's marriage for the sake of getting power but he also treated his subordinate's life like a dog's life. The fact that kind of person possesses the highest authority among the four major forces is ridiculous. Heavenly Demon asked him, weren't you the rational type? What's so odd about a strong guy, not a good guy, standing at the top? Don't tell me you suddenly want to become an apostle of justice, or is it because of that girl called Shualan? Wen looked at him and said angrily, that's not what I'm talking about. Heavenly Demon said, that's what it sounds like to me, though. Wen was sitting in the rock and his swords were lying beside him. He looked at the Heavenly Demon and Huineng. Wen said, Heavenly Demon, Huineng, I felt it after the Righteous Path Grand Banquet, I think I need to increase my influence. Heavenly Demon asked confusingly, increase you influence? Huineng also asked, didn't you want to live freely in Murim? Wen looked at Sky and said, I just think it's going to be difficult for me to enjoy that freedom if I was on my own. Heavenly Demon laughed and said, you're absolutely correct. Before I made a name for myself, it was tedious having to take care of every little thing all by myself. Later, when I created the Heavenly Demonic Cult, they would help me take care of all that annoying stuff. Wen said, that's right. Also, as my influence increases, there will be fewer of those bastards who would dare to pick a fight with me. Heavenly Demon said, well, putting that aside, how are you planning to increase your influence? Could it be that you are planning to gain support from the 5 Clans League and the Shaolin Temple? Wen smiled and said, no way. Then the Northern Blade Association is claiming to be the representative of the Righteous Path. Does it make sense for me to increase my influence in the place those bastards may have control over? Tell me honestly, Heavenly Demon. The Heavenly Demonic Cult is still around, right? Heavenly Demon said, I'm not sure. Wen looked at him and said, what are you not sure about? Your reaction was definitely strange when the association leader mentioned the Heavenly Demonic Cult. Heavenly Demon said, 1,700 years. Wen looked at him and asked, what are talking about all of a sudden? Heavenly Demon said, that's how much time has passed since I was their leader. Wen asked shockingly, what? Are you saying that you are someone from 1,700 years ago? Heavenly Demon said, you did not know that? When I heard your story, there was no doubt in my mind that the Heavenly Demonic Cult would have disappeared, but after listening to what that bastard Dugu Hentian said, I changed my mind. Wen looked at him shockingly and pointed finger towards himself and asked, what? Are you talking about the rumor regarding the Heavenly Demonic Cult? Was not dead because of me? Heavenly Demon said, they might have called you the Heavenly Demon Scribe, Heavenly Destroyer, but they never said you were a member of the Heavenly Demonic Cult. Even though the Heavenly Demonic Cult is only a legend, it seems like people still talk about it without realizing it. In essence, rumors are highly contagious and volatile. One looked at Huineng and asked, what is he saying? He replied, I think he meant that rumors circulate fast but they don't last for long, sir. Heavenly Demon said again, the fact that the rumor of the heavenly demonic cult is still spreading to this day must mean that, whether they are authentic or not, some people have seen something similar to the heavenly demonic cult. Wen put his hand on chin and understand the situation and said, wait a moment, so you're taking that one rumor about the heavenly demonic cult, to Ray to tell me that the heavenly demonic cult still exists. Heavenly Demon said, of course. It's secretive and powerful, and although it doesn't reveal itself, it definitely exists. If those brats from the heavenly demonic cult have been following my teaching properly, I have no doubt they are still around. One looked at him confusingly and said, all right, no more say. That heavenly demonic cult and whatnot, let's go find it quickly. Huineng said, Amitba. One said, hey, Heavenly Demon. Heavenly Demon replied, yes. One asked him, are you sure people live here? One said to Heavenly Demon, I don't think anyone lives here. He said, if they aren't here, it must mean they no longer exist. One said, let's concentrate then. He folded his hands and closed his eyes. He opened his eyes and said surprisingly, wait, I felt the presence just now. Damn, it's already hard enough to look for people without all of that snow. Ha out his finger in chin and said confusingly, hold on, snow? That's true, why didn't I think of that? Heavenly Demon asked confusingly, think of what? Huineng said, I think I know what you're talking about. One inhaled air and closed his mouth. He exhaled, it looked he came in another place. There were rocks covered with snow. He looked at the place and laughed. He said happily, I knew this would work. Heavenly Demon and Huineng thought confusingly, he knew this would work. One looked around, he saw a cave and said happily, found it. He walked in the way of the cave but the way was so narrow, he was moving slowly. He said, so narrow. He looked at his feet and said, look at this, there are traces of humans. I can feel the warm energy inside. He looked around and then up, finally he entered the cave. After a while, he was caught in a trap. He shouted angrily, where the hell are those bastards? I'm so tried that I don't want to look for them anymore. Heavenly Demon asked angrily, you're not going to look for them anymore? Are you going to give up after coming this close to finding them? One looked at him and asked confusingly, what? What do you mean? Heavenly Demon said to him, why don't you take a look next to the stone over? One looked at the next rock and saw a sign there, he said, it looked like some kind of symbol. Heavenly Demon said, that is my insignia, all descendants of the Heavenly Demon know this. Find the mechanism device nearby and activate it. One looked something and asked, are you taking about this? He pressed the thing and asked again, is this how to do it? Heavenly Demon said, that's right, this third and fifth in the right, got you it. One said, how complicated, and pressed them. Suddenly, stairs appeared in front of him. One said happily, looks like we found the right place, let's enter. He entered the place and got surprisingly after saw it. He said shockingly, a forest underground, how on earth is this possible? One looked at Heavenly Demon and asked, is this place connected to somewhere else? He replied, I think so, as expected of my descendants. One looked two little girls and thought, there are people here. A girl with red hair said with smile, I wonder who will win. The girl with blue hair said, no matter who wins, won't things go according to Elder Vermilion Sun Demon's wishes? Girl with red hair said, who knows, I just hope that Elder Vermilion Sun Demon wins so that we can leave this place. Girl with blue hair said, but if Elder Blood Demon wins and we fail to advance to the Central Plains again, I don't know anymore. One listened them and thought, it seems that if the bastard called Vermilion Sun Demon wins, they will leave this place, and if the one called Blood Demon wins, they will continue to stay there. Girl with red hair said happily, I want to travel around Jianghu with young Master Jaded Qilin. Girl with blue hair said, you too? Me too. They both started laughing. One thought, Jaded Qilin? He seems pretty popular. Heavenly Demon said, Heaven Destroyer, I think this is really the heavenly demonic divine cult. What do you think? At any rate, they should at least do this much to call themselves my descendants. Considering how cool the headquarter is, they must have quite the potential, right? One thought, there he goes with his bragging again. Alright, shall we look around some more? Wen jumped and looked around, he saw a building and thought, that building looks pretty extravagant, let's go in there. He came in the building and opened a door of a room. A woman was laying in the bed and a servant was sitting near to her bed. She combed her hair with and said, even Jays the Vermilion Sun Demon loses, nothing will change. Won't the 12 demonic young masters take the winner's side anyway? Wen listened her and thought, as expected from the heavenly demonic cult, how nice. Woman said again, Z, as long as we, the Yellis, keep supporting from the back, the Vermilion Sun Demon of Beigong will take control of everything anyway. Moreover, the Dantai family and Ouyang family aren't that close. In the end, the Beigong will regain supreme, go and tell older brother Thousand Souls Demon, everything is going according to plans. One thought, Dantai? Ouyang? Beigong? Yelu? Are they something similar to 5 Clans League? Servant said, then this lowly subordinate will take my leave, Lord Scorching Empress. She said, wait. He looked at her. She asked him, what's your name? He replied, Z, this lowly subordinate is Yelu Dingyun. She said, in terms of hierarchy, you should be fine my nephew, so why don't you come over here and massage your aunt's legs? Dingyun asked shockingly, pardon? About that. She held her feet in front of her. He trying to touch her feet but his hand shivered. She looked at him and kicked him. He fell away, she said, pathetic bastard, get the hell of my sight. He ran and said, yes. She looked him from behind and said, dumbass. When asked her, how about I help you with that? She looked surprised. She looked at him and asked, who is it? She thought, there was someone this handsome in our cult. One was standing in front of her, she looked at him with smile. One looked at her and thought, shouldn't she be in guard? Her gazes are too flirty. She said with evilly smile, boy, won't you try massaging my legs? Heavenly Demon said, how cheeky, to think she would dare to as this heavenly demon for a massage. From the look of it, this wench has mastered the yang snatching and replenishing art and it looks like she's maintaining her youth thanks to the rejuvenating art. One held his hand in front of her and said, all right, then. She said, yeah, go right ahead. One fastly sealed her pressure points. She thought shockingly, he has sealed my pressure points. One talked with her in signals and said, listen carefully, from now on, you will have to answer my questions honestly. She thought, he did it so fast that I couldn't react to it at all. Who in the world is this bastard? One folded his hand and said, let me introduce myself, I'm the Heavenly Demon successor, Heavenly Demon scribe. She looked at him confusingly. One looked at her and thought, looks like she doesn't believe me. One said, the reason why I made it this far is also thanks to the Heavenly Demon's help. You can't believe this either, can you? She said, no, I believe you. I believe everything good-looking guys say. One thought confusingly, what the? Why are you blushing all of a sudden? She said, what's more, the fact that you came here without killing anyone in the first place means that you aren't a bad guy. One looked at her confusingly. Heavenly Demon said, you fool, have you forgotten what I told you already? One asked him, what are you talking about? He replied, I'm saying that let's show her your techniques, don't you know the saying seeing is believing? There's no need to persuade her with words you know. One said, I see, all right. That'd be easier for me as well. One turned his back towards her. She looked him confusingly. One turned his head and said, whether I am the real Heavenly Demon successor or not, confirm it with your own eyes. He showed him the techniques and said, there are 3 martial arts that the Heavenly Demon did not pass down to his disciples, Heavenly Demon Triple Sword Heaven Obliteration, Azura Eradicating Thousand Palm and. He said her gain and showed her a technique, look carefully, this is Heavenly Demonic Dominating Step. She got surprised and thought, that is, left 3 clones, right 3 clones, back 3 clones, front 3 clones. A technique that divides your body into a total of 12 clones. The one that can only be heard from legend Heavenly Demonic Dominating Step, is he really the Heavenly Demon? One looked at her and said, looks like you finally believe me. Now tell me, I have already unsealed your pressure points. She coughed and out his hand over his face and asked, ain't you really the Heavenly Demon successor? He replied, yeah, that's why I have something I'd like to ask. Tell me everything you know about the Heavenly Demonic cult situation and its forces. The name of the woman Heaven Destroyer encountered was Yelu Yingling Scorching Empress. She told him, there were 5 clans in the heavenly demonic cult. Duanmu, which carried the last name of the first heavenly demon, and the 4 clans named after the heavenly demon 4 disciples: Beigong, Yelu, Dantai, and Ouyang. As the heavenly demonic cult placed utmost importance on law, their first doctrine was that only a direct descendant of the Duanmu clan could be appointed the cult leader. However, since the cult leader Duanmu Qingye lost his life during the Great Orthodox Demonic was 250 years ago, most of the members of the Duanmu clan died as a very young age, leaving the cult leader position vacant until now. One said, "There's no cult leader? Given your nature, if you don't have a leader, you would have fought each other already. Yet it was pretty well maintained. Is there a system in place to replace the cult leader's position?" She looked at him and thought, unexpectedly, he seems to be grasping the situation pretty well. Is he not just an idiot who is good at martial arts? And said, "That is." In a situation where there was no leader, the heavenly demonic cult was converted to a system of guardians and elders rather than a system of the cult leader as a temporary measure. The position of guardian was held by a collateral branch of the Duanmu clan, who could not become the cult leader, 3 guardians and 7 elders below them and 4 demonic sovereigns. When asked, 4 demonic sovereigns? Since the guardians and elders are just old men, are they the real deal? She said, Blood Demon, Vermilion Sun Demon, Thousand Souls Demon, Poison Demon, they are also the heads representing each clan. One thought, if I want to take control of the heavenly demonic cult, I must subdue those bastards first. She told him, and there are also 4 empresses and 4 flowers, they are our cult's female experts. When asked her, didn't you call yourself Scorching Empress? That means you must be one of the 4 empresses, right? She replied, yes. However, those the most followers within the heavenly demonic cult are the 12 demonic young masters. One said, how complicated. So how many people are there in total? She said, if you're talking about those with actual power, there should be about 12,000 of them. If you add everyone, there should be about 20,000. One thought, did they say the Northern Blade Association has about 15,000 people? He smiled and said, great, very good. That should definitely be a bud help to me. She looked at him and said, I don't think it's something you should be that happy about. Since it would be difficult to be recognized as the supreme heavenly demon without anyone to help you. When asked shockingly, why isn't there anyone? Don't I have you, Scorching Empress?